So I'm going to call the meeting to order. This is the February 15th, 2017 meeting, which was postponed due to the storm last week. I'm going to ask if our town administrator could please read the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, we'll vote to approve or amend the agenda and add topics not reasonably anticipated by the chair 48 hours in advance, and we don't have any of those items. Then a section of public comment, and then certificates of appreciation for Daryl Beardsley, Margot Powicky, Joseph Putnam, Jean Russo, and Ann Becca Brady.
Becca Brady.
Consideration of next steps regarding General Chemical and a potential TRC contract. Then 2017 annual town meeting preparation, consideration of warrant articles, departmental budget reviews, and capital planning. And we plan to do the Board of Selectmen budget, town buildings, and building inspector. And then operational items with town administrator, then selectmen items, reports, and updates. Meeting calendar, set the next meeting, which I think was tentatively March 9th. And then consideration of minutes for November 10th, 2016, November 16th, 2016, November 22nd, 2016, and December 15th, 2016. And there's no executive session.
Okay, very good. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Okay, so Sean moved, Paul seconded, and we'll have a roll call vote. Paul?
Aye.
Sean?
All right.
Mark?
Yes.
And I'll be a yes also, so that we have an agenda. That's great. There's no public comment, and I guess the next thing we're doing is the certificates of appreciation. David, are we waiting for anyone?
We're waiting for Ian Becca Brady, Jean Russo, Darrell, and Mr. Putnam.
Okay, so
Let's go on to the,
I guess what we could do is wait a couple minutes for them, and in the meantime, I know that George is here, George Morrill is here from advisory, and had a matter he wanted to raise with us that's pertinent to the annual town meeting preparation and consideration of warrant articles, and you have another meeting coming up,
Right, our meeting's at 7, so...
and you probably have to prepare for that. So if you want to start that discussion now, George, does that make sense?
Yeah, that'd be
Okay,
great.
that's great.
You gotta go there, or Mark will never hear you, though.
Yep.
No problem. We had talked before about a couple of the warrant articles. We had decided not to sponsor any warrant articles directly after a talk with Corey Lincoln, just because advisory really shouldn't be unless it's directly affecting advisory or if it's to do with the stabilization fund. But one of the articles that we were considering was switching tax billing to quarterly. After discussion with, and along with that, another article is to have the this would be an assessor's article, but they could adopt a statute that would allow them to capture any properties that are finished construction in the first half of the year. Right now, it's as of January 1st. That's what a property is taxed on for the year. By adopting the statute, they could go up to June 30th, which would match the timing for the need. So say one of these 40Bs came on and a bunch of students were coming into the school and you'd have a year delay in taxes, that wouldn't be good going forward. Now, the only way to adopt this statute, the only way to make it work, right now with a semi-annual tax, she has to have the assessor has to have everything into the Department of Revenue by the first week of July, because we have to have, which gets so our tax rate could be set in time for our November tax bill. If you're quarterly, your first two tax bills in August and November are estimated tax bills, so she would then have time to get the assessments done as of June 30th into like September, October before she had to submit everything to the DOR. So in order to switch to if we switch to quarterly, then they can also adopt the statute, which we think makes a lot of sense, so we can capture revenue when a property is finished.
Okay, and you told me at least that you'd had discussions with the assessors and they were in favor of this?
I haven't talked to the Board of Assessors. We talked to Wendy.
I see.
And she was going to go to the Board of Assessors. I haven't followed up with her. I will about that statute, but I think it would all fit. It also, quarterly taxes I feel like make more sense because it levels out the cash flow. Right now we're only getting big payments twice a year. So our first big chunk of revenue doesn't come until November. So if a lot of things are happening in between July and November, I mean, one option that the treasurer has is to borrow a tax anticipation note, but if we're getting a payment in August, that would potentially go, I mean, we wouldn't need to do that, I would think. So I think leveling out the cash flow makes a lot of sense for a lot of reasons.
And I think the information we got from the treasurer was they've kind of tried to work around that historically because we don't have that kind of even cash flow.
Right,
But
right.
maybe this would
Or
make it-
they'll put off invoices because they know, they'll time things differently or not pay things, which I don't think is a good thing either. You should be paying bills when they're due and when they come in, so.
Because you have the money.
Right. So, and if we had a tax payment in August, that would, I think, help tremendously.
Right, right. Okay. And so what are you looking for from
So
us on
I'm
this?
looking to see if the selectmen would be willing or to sponsor or put this on the warrant by the selectmen for changing the tax billing from semi-annual to quarterly. And I'm going to ask the assessors, I think, look for the assessors to do that second article, set the assessment. I think they would be the logical sponsors for that article.
Okay. And David, are these on our list yet?
They're in red.
Which
down
numbers
there.
are they? Okay, there we go.
18 and 19.
18 and 19.
See where they crossed out advisory.
I would support George's request. I think at this point, we don't need to decide whether we're supporting it or not supporting it. And I think there was a notice of intent that's been kicking around here for a while, so everything was timely.
Yep.
So it should be on our list of articles, unless something blows up on it.
Right. And that's true. I mean, advisory, it still has to come to our public hearing, and all of advisory has to decide if it's something that we want to do. This isn't necessarily coming from advisory. This is more, we still have to have it presented to us as well
Right, right.
at our public hearing on March 18th.
And so, Paul, are you saying you want to put it on this warrant, this NOI list, or on the warrant per se, with the Board of Selectmen as the sponsor?
Yes,
Okay.
for the time being.
Okay.
We look at this, to be honest with you,
Right.
George, we look at it every couple of weeks.
Yeah, so do
So what's
we.
on this week may not be there in 2 weeks.
Right.
But
Do we need to open the warrant?
So you would be looking
No, it's on this
for
list.
Sorry,
us
we get to-
to present something in support of this?
Yeah, well, and I think, let's talk to Wendy as well to see how that would work with the assessors, because I feel like those two articles are somewhat combined, and not combined, but related.
I would say on the merits of this, that the objection I have heard over time has been that it's a lot of work to send out 4 bills as opposed to 2 bills. But I know other communities have figured out a way to still send out only 2 mailings. And with the 2 mailings comes 2 bills with different payment dates. If you want to pay them all, pay them all, but you can pay your 1 quarter
Right.
first, and then you can pay your 2nd quarter at the end of the 2nd quarter. So it's up to the taxpayer.
Correct.
So if the work then becomes the same with 2 mailings, seems like a good idea.
Yeah, I don't think the tail should wag the dog on that. I mean, if the effect of it is that we have a more even flow of money, that's a good thing, even if it is a little more work.
And saves the money on borrowing, things
Yeah,
like that.
correct. Could actually save money.
Okay, so the motion on the table, I think by Paul, is
To include it
to
on the
include it
warrant.
on the warrant.
Both
And-
of them.
Both of these on the warrant.
Right.
And then after some discussion with
With
the
the
assessors,
right.
we'll figure out who it is who actually sponsors the articles.
I'll second that.
Okay, so Sean has seconded. We'll take a roll call vote. Mr. Durensis,
Aye.
Mr. Brandon,
Yes,
Mr. Clean,
All right.
and I'll be aye also, so 4-0 on that.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Judge. Thanks for bringing this up and presenting it. Okay, so now, do we have everybody we think is going to come for the proclamations yet?
I just learned Jean Rosso, something came up, so she can't make it tonight, but we have Ann Becca Breedy here. Daryl said she was coming in.
She's probably next door to the Board of Health.
I just went to see her, and Margot Pawicki is here.
Okay, all
We're
right,
missing
so,
Frank.
That's Darrell right there.
and there's
Frank
Darrell.
Hess can't come.
So
Yes,
Frank
just told me.
and Jean can't come, so we've got the 3 people who can come here, Paul, so.
And here's Daryl. So
Okay, so do we want to hold on Jean and Joe
Jean
Putnam?
can't make it tonight, we'll give them another night.
What about Poe? Is Poe?
And I haven't heard from Mr. Putnam either.
Okay.
Okay. So that's good. So can we do that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
You're the man on this stuff, Paul.
All right, so we'd like to recognize long-term volunteers of the town. A small town like Sherborn depends upon volunteers coming forward and helping us, all of us, govern ourselves. This is truly a government of the people, by the people, for the people. And yet, of those who come forward, there are some who have come forward a lot and have served for many years. And we wanted to recognize their contribution to the community over that period of time. So today, we would like to recognize, and I'll take them one at a time, Margot Pawicki, who has volunteered for the town on the following committees: the Ambulance Criteria Committee, the Government Structure Study Committee, the Focus 11 Group, the Solon Academy Trustees, the Town Offices Police Station Study Committee, the Police Station Building Committee, and for her many years of service to the Historic Society. Margot, would you come forward?
And I want to add, Margaret told me, and I'm not going to say when she started working for the town as a teenager, so she's actually volunteered, and at the rate she was being paid, it was almost volunteer work, so.
Thank you for your service to the town.
Let's do that check saying to
And next is Ann Becca Breedy.
I could bring you.
Ann has been a Council of Aging member for over 15 years and has served on the Pine Hill Secondary Access Committee. Ann, could you step forward? Thank you for your service to the town.
Thanks, Ann.
Thank you.
They don't have that.
Next is Darrell Beardsley. Darrell is currently serving on the Board of Health, the Groundwater Protection Committee, the Southwest Area Water Supply Protection Committee, the Town Center Water Systems Option Committee, and is a water commissioner and has served our town for over 15 years. Darrell, would you step forward, please?
I think some of your years count as 2 years.
Thank you for your service to the town.
Thank you.
And we're holding on the rest.
Okay, great. Thank you all. And this is a great thing, Paul, that you got us started doing here. All right, next item on the agenda is for the general chemical contract, a TRC contract for general chemical. David, do you want to walk us through what this is about?
Yeah, this originally started when we did some work with a consultant, which was TRC, to respond to Mass DEP regarding general chemical and the spread of its underground plume, or the potential of it. So the selectmen voted for TRC to do, to work with the town on a response letter, which we issued. And now there's more work to be done. MDEP is reviewing, the responses, and we really don't have somebody sitting at the table representing our interest. So I asked TRC to put the proposal together, or put a proposal together and get to us, but I didn't know whether it would be moving forward as a Board of Selectmen item, or a Board of Health item, or Board of Selectmen referring it to the Board of Health. And then there's some communications about where we should go next with this. That included Daryl and Ethan. Oh, hi, Ethan. And then the proposal from TRC. And this would be, I would probably call Daryl and Ethan up, who have talked mostly about this, about the contract.
And also, Chris, we have a...
Oh, I'm sorry.
meeting, so that we have
I didn't lean forward enough.
So,
Yeah, right, and we have Mark Brandon on remote participation, so
okay, I'm Mark.
that's Daryl, yeah.
He'll hear you through that little mic.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd really like to hear Mark's views on this, because Mark has been sort of our leader on General Chemical.
Well, let's get Daryl going, and
Yeah.
then Mark can chime in.
Okay,
Thank you
let's
for coming
see.
in.
They may not know Mark's
Where to
views.
begin? Actually, I'd like most of the time to be Ethan talking about pretty much where things stand with General Chemical right now and the need for us to move quickly on some items. And then part of that, as David alluded to earlier, part of that issue is who's going to lead it. There's been some back and forth. Is it with the selectmen? Is it Board of Health? And just who, Board of Health is certainly willing to be involved, and we're also willing to take it over more. And then how to use Ethan to work on that, since he's so familiar with the ins and outs of General Chemical. So I don't know if you want to leave the more administrative matter to second, and at least hear the things that are critical that we should be working on now, and that's why the administrative part is important
Yes,
to figure
that's a
out.
great idea. Thank you.
Take it away, Lee.
Okay, so just to give you a brief update as to where we are, or where General Chemical is in the process in DEP. DEP, General Chemical wrote a response to our comments, as well as Framingham's and Natick's and other interested parties' comments that went in a couple of months ago. And the response was issued approximately a month ago in January. And it's a volume, it's a huge volume of material, but the bottom line is, in the conclusion, I want to read from the conclusion. It says here, thermal treatment has the potential to provide a faster cleanup of the GCC facility property. Timeliness is of concern voiced in many of the comments, and reduce concentrations more effectively than other strategies evaluated. Then it goes on and it says, however, and EPA agrees with that. DEP consulted with EPA. However, it says here, however, EPA's recommendations do not consider cost for this treatment. And that treatment that we've been pushing for and recommending is, in other words, what's called groundwater one cleanup, which is to provide the cleanup so that it's acceptable for drinking water standards. That's the goal. The issue here is it's unknown whether or not DEP will require that level of cleanup of the contamination of the general chemical plume, the general chemical property, and the resulting plume. It is likely, we don't know. It is likely right now that it is, I'm not getting a feel from DEP that they're going to require it. There might be less of a cleanup, a less standard of a cleanup to a lesser standard. Part of that reason is, first of all, Framingham does not use the groundwater for their drinking purposes. Their water comes from MWRA, so therefore they don't have no need to have the groundwater cleaned up to a higher standard than Sherborn does. Secondly, General Chemical, for the past number of years since I've been involved in the General Chemical issue, has not admitted that the contaminants that we picked up in Sherborn already, at very small amounts, is related to their contamination plume. We believe, or I believe, with the consultants, that it is connected to General Chemical. If General Chemical were to accept that, then obviously the cleanup could be much more extensive and costly than what it is right now, and that's part of the issue. As I look at the report and as I look as to where it's going, here's my thoughts about it. I think Sherborn is critical to be at the table as DEP continues on with its discussions and its deliberation for the following reasons. One is, I believe General Chemical does have to be held responsible for the contamination and the resulting cleanup. If DEP chooses not to require such an extensive cleanup to the more strict standards, I would also suggest that we need to have TRC as a consultant to advise us, advise the town, as to how what kind of sentinel or monitoring well system should be placed around the contaminated area in Framingham and in Sherborn, so that we can monitor first the effectiveness, the efficacy of the cleanup, and also if and when the contaminants continue to move into Sherborn, and we need to have some sort of a system in place to monitor and to be an early warning system. There is no such system out there right now. It does not exist to the extent that's necessary to pick up the contaminants that are basically, they're called DNAPL, they're deep contaminants. They go into the bedrock, and they travel differently than contaminants would travel in regular groundwater. And that's why there's a need to have a more thorough, a more complete kind of monitoring or sentinel system to protect the Sherborn resources. So that's where we're at right now. In the period of time, DEP is considering what they call phase 3, which really means what kind of cleanup process what are they going to require in terms of cleanup. And I think this is a critical point in that process. And Sherborn, again, as I said earlier, I believe I would suggest Sherborn needs to be a very, very loud voice, a very strong voice at that table as DEP goes through that process.
Right, and I would say without Sherborn advocating for having clean drinking water in our town, they're not being pushed to do it otherwise, because Framingham can't make that argument, as Ethan pointed out, because their water's coming from elsewhere. So unless we are there doing that, DEP and certainly the responsible party for the contamination are going to default to the easier path.
And the less costly.
Yes.
I certainly agree that Sherborn needs to be at the table. I don't agree with that last statement, though. The MWRA, who is now at the table, has similar issues. NADIC does as well. Both of those were points that we made in our original letter to General Chemical and DEP, but we're not the only one with groundwater and drinking water exposure. The MWRA aqueduct clearly does, and we pointed that out in our initial letter, and the town of Natick, both of whom are involved, which certainly doesn't mean that we shouldn't be involved.
Do you know how deeply they're involved at the moment, or?
MWRA has made a number of submissions. They were not involved earlier. They are very actively involved now.
Natick was not either, because they
And
came
Natick
to the
wasn't
table
either.
late.
They are now
weren't
actively
aware.
involved. So, which is great. They should have been, as should we, and now all three parties are. So I think they have this, those three parties have the same interest and exposure. So I completely support going forward, but
Okay, then I would want to add another task, and that is that we coordinate with them so that we're speaking
Agreed.
in a more unified
Has
way
Natick
and
begun to
sharing
use TRC?
information as we know.
Sorry. Has Natick contracted TRC for any work, do you know?
I'm not aware if they have. Well, I've been working collaboratively with Framingham
I know.
anyway, with TRC and Framingham. I would say, though, because of the data that we picked up here in Sherborn a number of years ago, that is the primary reason why Natick is now involved, because of those data.
Right.
And those data show that.
the
Natick
data
is
showing
now-
the plume
Yeah.
movement, right.
But without the pushing, well, I was the one who pushed at Framingham. Without pushing in Framingham years ago, we wouldn't even be having this discussion now. But it was dragging feet. It was really pushing a lot. And also MWRA, because that aqueduct is it's a aqueduct that they plan never to use, but they did use it a few years ago when the Western system broke down.
It's a backup.
Actually, it's a backup of a backup of a backup. It's the lowest level backup of all the systems. And in fact, if you look at their contingency plan from NWRA, it's never supposed to be used for drinking water anyway. It's supposed to be used just for fire suppression and other purposes. But yet they did use it for drinking water a number of years ago. But these volatiles were not such an issue by the time it reached Boston. Other contaminants were, but that's a different story. But it is important. They have to keep that aqueduct clean. And that's part of, and MWRA is at the table now, working on that. So can we hear from Mark? Mark,
Yes,
do you have a recommendation on this?
well, yeah, and I'm having a little bit of a hard time hearing some of the conversation, but I mean, I think we need to stay in there. It seems to me it logically belongs with Board of Health, but I think we know that they've got limited bandwidth these days, and so it seemed to me that we ought to retain ownership of this, at least for the time being, and I think we ought to go forward with it. Somebody mentioned that, DEP is not likely to ask them to remediate to drinking water standards. That was certainly the sense I got the last time they were in. But we need to keep pressuring them. So I would be in favor of having David negotiate the next phase of this contract with them.
So I have a question, David, which is where is the money coming from?
It's a good question. The proposal is for $10,000.
Right.
The only identifiable place that I can think of is from the town meeting article a year or two ago that was approved for environmental consulting. I'd have to check what
How
the
many
balance
times have we
is.
spent that article already?
I don't think we have spent that article.
We haven't? All right. Where did the initial TRC contract come from? Where were those
I
first?
believe that was a reserve fund transfer last
First one was,
year.
I thought we used legal,
Right, I thought they came out of legal and
Oh,
professional
yeah.
services.
at least the first one,
Right,
maybe the second.
That's
We did
fine.
do a reserve fund last
I
year.
agree with that, Sean. That's where I thought that came from.
So you think we used the legal fund, but we didn't use this article that was available for environmental
No,
consulting?
no, I don't think at the time we were looking at that article that it was going to be for use for like spot testing here and there. I mean, it was kind of a open article, but nobody was looking at it that we were going to blow the whole. I think it's 10 or 15,000 on one contract.
Can we throw this at the two advisory members before they leave?
Yeah, do you have a recollection of what
Yeah,
that money was for?
It was in anticipation of spending money on general chemical, but we left it vague in case we needed it for something else. And we have not seen, I think anything that's been spent to date has been through RFTs. It hasn't been, there hasn't been anything on this article, to my recollection.
I think it was
Came out of budgets.
58,000, but I'm not positive.
Right. No, I recall we did spend money out of the legal budget for that, but I'm wondering why we did that if we had a environmental consulting budget available.
I
I'm
think
not sure we had that money available.
Right.
Well, we spent money on TRC since last town meeting, correct?
And this was a new article this past town meeting, is that the
Yes.
idea, Mark? Yeah, okay.
I think
All right, that makes
We should
sense.
use it.
Mark, I think that's right. The original TRC contract predated that.
Yeah, I got thrown off, David thought it was a couple years
I
ago.
thought it was
so-
2 years
So
ago.
that threw me off. Okay, that now makes sense. So yeah, then that's what the money is for.
so. That would be one funding source. The other concern is whoever's working on this. If Ethan is working on this under the Board of Health, he would have to be assigned to be doing that work by the Board of Health and charging the
And
hours to
also-
the Board of Health budget.
Right, and we didn't include those costs in our budget projections for this year, so then the question would be how we deal with that.
You mean the current year?
Yeah, this current year.
Is there a different place we can charge those specific hours? I mean, he's doing Board of Health function as well, but can we pull those hours out, assign them to something else? So we don't crunch that budget halfway through the year?
I don't have anywhere else to pay him that would be any better source than leaving it in the budget, and if it draws over, we would have to go for a reserve fund transfer, and at least you're allocating the money from the source, so you can see that you're over.
I'm a little confused. So Ethan's already involved in this work with TRC on Sherborn's behalf, or only in Framingham?
On Sherborn's behalf.
On Sherborn's behalf. So you've already assigned him to do the work.
Some, we've been not
Okay.
cutting them loose to really
Just
dive
been
in until we
monitoring-
knew how we were paying for
Monitoring and
that.
coordinating with the consultant from Framingham. That's
The work I've been doing was up until the letter, the response to the initial document, not this current document that's been
I see.
released, and to respond
So
to
you were
that.
behind the scenes working with David on the letter and others,
Yes.
and with Drew on the letter?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, that was my involvement, and now it's continuing on to, this is moving forward.
He's continuing to spend time because he clearly prepared for this.
Well, yeah.
But this
It's hard
project,
not to.
this project is not one to be done by him or even the Board of Health. This is, the issue before us is to hire a consultant and have the consultant analyze the document and prepare that and file it, not to have it rewritten here in the town.
Yeah, no, that-
I don't think that's what we're proposing.
Yeah, no, but that's not the issue either. I mean, I think the issue is, at least for me, is I don't want to spend the money twice. I don't want to hire Ethan to do work that we're also hiring TRC to do, and I want to understand how much involvement, staff involvement, through Ethan we need to have with TRC. I mean, we went through the first round, and the Board of Selectmen retained TRC, and I'm learning, I guess I wasn't aware of your involvement. I'm glad you were involved. It was a very good letter. But it sounds like we do need some amount of skilled, knowledgeable staff time to interface with TRC to make this a valuable exercise. But we should have some sense of how much that is and what it's going to cost and where the money's going to come from.
Well, on the issue, if we could bifurcate it for a minute, on the issue of whether or not we should have TRC intervene here, it seems to me, I want to follow the recommendation of Chuck and Mark. They were the people, the two selectmen here who had general chemical work over the last year or two, and their recommendation is pretty clear. I would also note that this is probably the single most important time, because right now the issue is what is the remedy for this site, and our intervention in being strong right now is really the moment of truth. If we get the remedy that we want, that's going to produce benefits for the town. If we try to hold back to some later part in the process, some other remedy will be chosen. So this is the time to spend the money. So I'm in support then of spending $10,000 on TRC to make the case for this thermal remedy that would better address the contamination at the site. That seems to be the best remedy.
Ethan, what's the process for the Phase 3 decision by DEP and the timeframe?
It's a little bit loose right now, but let me answer that question plus the other part of the discussion. There's no absolute time frame right now. We're waiting to hear back from DEP again in this, but we've been talking to DEP informally about these issues, and the goal is to weigh in relatively soon, within the next 2 months or so is the goal. But there's no firm deadline yet from DEP on this. And that's one of the vague issues about it, but we want to weigh in earlier than later as they're going through their process. But if I can also add about TRC and the involvement with the other towns, TRC has been, one of the reasons I think TRC's bid came in, or their request for funds is relatively low, is because they're doing a lot of the work anyway, and they have a long history on that site. They've been involved in that site since 2010 or 2011. So they have the history and they have the knowledge. The other piece is the work that I've been primarily doing on behalf of Sherborn is working on the coordination with the other towns, particularly with Framingham, and working with TRC to make sure they're doing the work that needs to be done for Sherborn, and sort of guiding it when the questions come in and working with them. For example, TRC, they're not proposing to work to help coordinate the three towns and the other interested stakeholders. For example, they're looking for direction in terms of, yes, the thermal treatment is the preferred method of treatment, but what do we do for a backup if the EP ultimately says no? What about the sentinel wells and the monitoring wells? Well, that's sort of down the line, but I'd like to get TRC prepared so we have that, so we can show perhaps, that system might force, putting together that kind of proposal might force DEP more towards the thermal treatment rather than just relying on the sentinel and monitoring well system. So in other words, it's a moving target, and there's a lot of pieces involved in coordinating the response to general chemical.
Right, and I would say the Board of Health didn't see them as doing the same work, but different pieces of the work. Certainly TRC is the technical muscle on this. Not that you're not technical muscle also, but
They are.
but more strategic and, as you said, coordinating and making sure all the parts are there that need to be there.
TRC has a tremendous amount of knowledge on this site, but also in terms of the remedies for cleanup and that. I have found throughout the years, the TRC team has been extraordinarily helpful.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you have to sell us on their skill. I'm looking at the scope of services, Ethan. I don't know if you were involved at all with them in terms of this scope, but based on this scope, I don't completely see that they're being asked to do exactly what you said in terms of the backup plan or anything. It looks like what they're asked to do, or they're proposing to do in this scope, is to respond to the Phase 3 report and the comments, and then rebut the comments if necessary. And so I would want to see this scope actually address the sentinel wells or the fallback solution as part of this scope.
That's part of the rebuttal. That's part of the...
So they would do that within the rebuttal?
Yes,
Okay.
that's when I spoke to TRC this morning about
Okay.
that, and that's part of the...
That's helpful, okay.
Yeah, that's part of the goal.
So can I make a motion to approve the engagement of TRC to present the thermal solution and such backup as would benefit the town of Sherborn, and to utilize funds from the warrant article for professional environmental consulting services?
Second.
Okay, so Paul made a motion and Sean seconded it. Do we have any more discussion at the table?
I'd like to put an outer cap on it. We've got a proposal. I'd like to authorize David to negotiate a contract for up to $10,000, just to have some parameter on it.
Yeah, that's their proposed budget in here, but...
Yeah. Okay.
And it sounds like we have that money on account someplace? Okay. All right. In the unusual position of having money to spend for a purpose that we need money for.
It's a good purpose.
The amount that was appropriated was $35,000.
Okay. So we certainly don't need that.
And the budget in this contract is 10 grand.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with Chuck, up to 10,000 would be the right thing to... Do you want to amend your motion, or did you formally amend the motion here, Chuck, to say up to 10,000?
I think that's already there, but I'm happy to accept it as a definitive
Okay.
limitation on the $10,000.
Okay. Is there anything more we should be doing here, Darrell? or-
Yes, how would we like the town to interface with TRC
Wait,
and with other towns?
Vote on this so we can separate those two.
Can we vote on this?
Yeah, we can, but I want to make sure, I
no,
want to make sure there's
all right,
nothing else
no,
in
no
this,
comment.
in this
No.
motion that you
Nope,
can
not on
see.
this one.
Okay, all right, good. All right, so we'll do the roll call vote. Chuck?
Aye.
Paul?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Sean?
All right.
And I'll be aye also, so that vote passes. Okay, now part two is the interface and also, I guess, funding for Ethan, right?
Right, he would be the interface.
Yeah.
Well, on that, my 2 cents, based on what David had to say, I would follow the advice of the town administrator, which is that he should continue to be paid as he has been paid for the interface. And when we get to the annual town meeting or the end of the year, every end of the year we make votes to transfer money between accounts to cover any shortfall. That we deal with it that way than now trying to set aside money that we don't know how much it's going to be, and it's just going to cross we're going to cross jurisdictions, because the warrant article's under our control, your budget's under your control. It gets too complicated to do it any other way.
Okay,
I
so
have
on
a
your,
que-
Yeah, go ahead.
Two questions.
That's the same
One-
question I have.
They're both related to that. You're already gonna need a reserve fund transfer prior to the end of the year for your budget, correct?
not clear right now. At mid-year, we were pretty much on target.
Okay, I
But
thought-
we have some
I thought you were
unusual
headed north
expenses
of it.
coming up, but
Okay. You're able to separate those hours, right? So at the end of the year, we can
Ethan's
look at that.
timesheet, he
sign
can
it.
track what's general chemical.
Yes.
Then I'm in favor of exactly that.
Okay, yeah, and my related question was that this wouldn't detract from the other services you're providing to the town and as a Board of Health agent, right?
I don't think
No,
so.
no.
It doesn't take away, you don't have a limited number of hours or something, where this is gonna count against that.
Will, but I don't think it'll be a problem.
I treat this as very differently. This is a different project, different work.
No, understood, I just know that there's some sensitivity to making sure all
Yeah,
the
you
work gets
stay
done,
below
all the work gets done timely, and I don't wanna put you in a position where you've gotta pick and choose if we can avoid doing
Oh,
that.
I see. I don't think so.
You think we're okay, all right?
But
One more
even
comment.
with Ethan working on this, I would like to have Mark and Chuck having a role in this to make sure that not just the technical issues that you're good at, but also that the people of Sherborn are represented in the direction that the work is being done.
I have,
Well, I would think anything that gets sent out is gonna come back to this board at some point, right? Like the letter to the
Probably
last
through
time.
that subcommittee.
David Williams has a very open door, where I direct communication with General Chemical, and I have him on speed dial for General Chemical.
This door was locked when I got here.
But the last time, the last round we went through with the comments, and there was a very good letter, and we had, Drew came in and spoke to the board, and we tweaked the letter a little bit. I assume you were involved in that, David was, several board members gave comments, but the other thing we did the last time was we had DEP in here, and I would like to suggest, that's one reason I asked about the timing, I would like to suggest that before they make a decision, and maybe after we send our comments, we have DEP to another open public meeting of the Board of Selectmen, and do what we did the last time, make them justify what it is they think they want to do and how it's going to affect this town.
That's an excellent idea.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. All right,
I
good.
agree.
So David, put that on the list for whenever, April or sometime like that? Sean?
I just want to make a comment for those that aren't aware. Ethan's been working on this project for a long time. 20, how many years?
Since 2009, 2008? About 10 years.
Okay. The knowledge of that site goes way back beyond that, though. And we're the beneficiary of that.
Yeah.
We're talking about him working on a project, but he has knowledge that you couldn't necessarily duplicate. He worked for Framingham, so he saw it from the inside. We're lucky to have him, and we're lucky to have him helping us.
Yeah, thank you.
It's my pleasure to continue working on General Chemical. So,
Great. All right, thank you. So is that all we need to do on General Chemical?
I just
Okay.
have one question. Advisory, do you have any issues about how we do this going
Well, I
forward?
think if there's going to be additional, I know you've already presented your budget to us, but if you're going to have a revised budget with additional hours for fiscal year 18, I mean, we don't have our public hearing until the 18th, so you could still submit that. I know this year, like Paul said, we could do a supplemental at the end of the year at town meeting, or the reserve fund transfer, but I think if you know in fiscal year 18 you're going to need additional hours, yes, you should come back with a revised budget to us. Yes.
Great, thank you very much. Thanks for coming in. Oh, Chris, yes.
So on your first motion was $10,000.
To TRC.
TRC. And you mentioned the thermal approach. I was wondering, if what I read was there was some vapor capture that was an issue with that approach, and are we going to leave open the option about out-and-out cleanup, dig up, pull it out of there?
Well, it's very complicated. I would suggest, I think right now, from all the work we've done, thermal is probably the best option, and EPA does also agree with that. However, there might be other options that we're not even thinking of, or might come along the pike that no one has really considered, and so I like to think that we could leave that option open in terms of, other possibilities, but given the extensive amount of work we've done already, it seems like thermal is the preferred for this kind of contaminant and the extent of the contamination.
All right, thanks very much. Good. Okay, so next on our agenda is, well, I guess we're back to the town meeting preparation and warrant articles. David, are there, why don't you walk us through what it is that we've got for today on that?
I think what we should start with can we do some budgets?
Yeah, that'd be great.
So we could have Henry, the building commissioner, start. There were basically a few budgets that we kicked over to this meeting. So I'd like to do the building commissioner and then the Board of Selectmen office and then town buildings. So if you look in your book,
So building commissioner first, and then what, David?
Selectmen office, Board of Selectmen, and then town buildings.
Boy, the mention of budgets cleared this auditorium out pretty well.
Yeah, so this is under the, even Rick laughed. This is under the inspections tab. Okay, if anybody's looking for it.
It'll jazz up our agendas a little bit.
Yeah.
Was this something you said?
I guess so, huh?
So Henry's been with us year and a
A
half.
little over a year now, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Been doing a great job. He's made a lot of changes in that department and office. He has a memo in the front that outlines some of the recommended changes that he'd like to incorporate into his budget. The actual budget that you see is, it's basically level funded, and the only change in there is adjustment for COLA, and adjustment from the 52.3 weeks to 52 weeks. And that's what's in the budget. If you approve the items that he's going to walk through, we'll update that budget with these items
Okay,
before it goes to advisory.
so this will become clearer as Henry watches. Okay. Thank you. Yes, so go ahead, thank you.
Okay. With the additional items that I'm adding for the budget, I'll first off say the electrical piece of it. We have, the electrical inspector is here 4 hours out of the week, and it's Tuesdays and Thursdays. So I'm getting many calls that the coverage is just not there. So what I was hoping to try to do is increase his hours from 4 to 11 hours a week, having him coming in on a Monday, Tuesday, and a Thursday schedule. So the window of opportunity for the contractors to call is only that one day, that Friday. So if they miss him Friday, then at least Monday we have coverage again. And we'll have people there, he'll be there to be able to do more inspections during the day and clean up things that need to be cleaned up. And I just think that coverage out of anything, to me, is really needed. The plumbing inspector, he's been doing very well, and the same schedule would apply to him, just so that we're only going to basically be missing one day that'll be critical to the weekend, that Friday. It seems a lot of the inspections want to happen on Friday so that they can continue on through the weekend. So if we can try to do a Monday, Tuesday, Thursday schedule, I think it'll work better for us.
So is the plumbing, you talking about an increase for the electrical inspectors, the same increase for plumbing, or is there no?
Nope, there's no increase in the plumbing other than just what would be coming across for the level funding this year.
Okay.
The only increases would be the electrical part of it, which would be $4,495.
So the plumber's already on his schedule?
He's all set.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. The other increase that I was hoping to try to do is some travel mileage for both electrical and plumbing. I was going to see if we can increase that to try to get $500 a year for each of them.
And that's a reimbursement basis?
Right.
For travel?
Yep, their travel time within the town, doing the hours within the town. And the big one is for the building, for my position. I've been putting between 5 and 7 hours extra each week between taking phone calls in and weekend stuff and hanging around and doing other inspections and things like that. And it's not really that big a deal, because I'm going to put the time into it anyways, but I was hoping to try to increase the, my budget basically was basing, I average 5 to 8 hours a day, so what I was trying to do is try to figure out to adding 5 hours more a week, which comes out at a rate of $35 an hour. 260 hours is $9,100. So I'd be asking to try to increase the budget $9,100.
This is, Henry's the third building commissioner in a row that's recommended that there be more hours.
And David, this is not in the
Position.
budget that you've put together here, right? It's not
No.
reflected on that?
No.
Okay.
The only thing that's in there now is flat salaries with the
Understood.
cost of living.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Do you have any idea how much more in fees we've collected this year because we did those fee increases? Do you have a sense of that?
I don't have a real good handle on that piece of it because we took it in the middle of the year.
Right.
So I do have a fee total that we did take in for the year.
The last 2 pages of that section.
Okay.
We know what we're trending versus last year?
See, I don't have last year's number. I came in late, and so that's why I'm trying to start up a new budget now. We didn't even put anything in the annual report last year, which this year here we will be.
All right, so plus the 176 is permit fees for building, and then there's also 30,000 of electrical, another 12,000 of plumbing.
Right, and the plumbing should really change next year because we just changed those fees $2 to $10 1,000. All that stuff should change next year too.
I know, I'm looking at, so we spend 75 and we're taking in 200?
Close to it.
That's always the case with the building department. Building departments generate a lot of money for every community.
Yeah.
And it's a key function in the community because it's both a public safety aspect to it, that is, the work that's being done by the inspectors makes sure that the public is safe. And secondly, we want to encourage in our town people to put additions on, to do renovations, keep their property up, get our beautiful homes maintained as beautiful homes. So this is in my mind, a very reasonable request, and I would support it.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was trying to make the case, which I think is easily made, that this is a request from a department that more than breaks even for the town, and, I would say, those fee amounts seem high compared to this budget, but I also know that take the project that we've had the most experience with this year, the biggest project in town, the amount of staff time that was not compensated that was spent on that project is astronomical. So if the building fee seems high compared to what it costs to pay a building inspector and a plumbing inspector and electrical inspector, it's because it doesn't include all the additional overhead and town council time and everything else that goes into some of the projects that pay the building permit fees. So that's another point also.
Right, and you're being told that some of it is just coming out of they're not getting compensated for it.
Yeah, no, you made a good case. If
Yeah.
you're spending 5 extra hours a week or 8 extra hours a week, you should be paid
Yeah.
for that time.
Yeah, I would assume that the extra hours, particularly for the electrical inspector, will not generate substantial additional fees. They'll be providing better service. I mean,
Well, there is a contrary argument to that. When you don't service the community well enough with your inspectors, people don't pull permits.
They just do the work.
Right, so you lost the fees.
well, that
And the
certainly, if that's correct, that's certainly another argument to do it. I mean, this represents about a 16% increase, which I support, but it's, we are adding additional hours here. Obviously, you need to be compensated for the work you've done, and the additional hours for the electrical inspector makes sense to me as well.
And it's highly unlikely that his time is going to start going down.
Right, I think that's right.
Yeah, I think that's,
And we don't want it to.
The 277 permits that was issued, if you look at it from an inspection point of view from the building department, that could be easily 500 inspections to like over 900 inspections. So there is quite a bit of time. Just for Conti, when we did the project for Odessa, for the solar panels, I was up there 15 times. So, it's, and a lot of the times I met up there a couple of times on a Saturday, and I just came in and just did the inspections, came in and left and stuff like that there, but, so that's why I understand that it's level funding and the town is tight for budget and stuff, but so the electrical part of it, to me, would be more important, to be sure, because I would rather have that coverage than to, if the budget's tight for everybody, electrical, to me, is really important, to try to get that, to get that through.
So do we want to actually take a vote to ask David to add this into the budget that's presented to advisory?
Yes, so moved.
second?
Everybody, any discussion up here? Mark?
No, I'm going to stay on this one because I don't have the data in front of me, and I just don't feel educated enough to vote on it.
Okay.
Mark, to be clear, I'm not sure if you heard, we're not voting to support it, we're voting to put it into the budget also. I wanted to make sure you didn't think we were voting to support it, because we're not doing that.
Not tonight.
No, I understand that.
Okay.
And I'm not necessarily against it, I just really can't make an intelligent vote on it.
Okay. I mean, based on the case I heard tonight, I would also support it, but if the motion on the
Well,
table
we
is
weren't
the
doing
vote-
that with each individual
Yeah,
budget.
no,
though.
I get it. We were gonna do that later, so,
Yeah,
okay.
just to explain that a little bit to our voters,
Yeah, so we talked at our last meeting about we were going to take all the selectmen budgets, we were going to review them, and we were going to make a proposal to advisory, but until we have the full picture of the town's budget, we didn't want to actually vote to support any budget. I have a feeling this is one that's going to be easy for this board to support, but I didn't want you to think it was a vote of no confidence or anything like that.
Okay.
So we have a motion on the table, and I think we have a second to put the additional funds into the budget to present to advisory. So we'll take a roll call vote. Chuck?
Yes.
Paul?
Aye.
Mark?
Yes, Dave?
Okay, Sean?
Aye.
And I'll be aye on that also. Okay, thank you, thanks very much. Are you up there for also town buildings, or is that David?
That's David.
David, okay, great.
Thank you.
All right, thanks very much.
Thank you. It's worth pointing out that in the 176,000 we collected, that was on $17 million worth of work that was done in town.
What do you think the assessment's like? Do you think they'll have a full 17?
They haven't hit yet. We don't accept them.
17 million? No.
So
They should.
Sharon will add,
That was.
Sharon will adjust those proper lines, and then let's distribute those pages back out.
Yeah, it's for the next meeting, that's great. Thank you.
Sharon said that she is ready to, we could do the accountant budget.
Do that now and then do town buildings, that's fine,
Yeah.
yeah. Sharon, that'd be great.
All right.
All right, so town,
Town accountant,
It's under accountant, accounting.
Fourth tab.
it's really finance director, right?
Third tab.
So the,
It's called
we
account.
call it the finance department, finance office is, we have a finance director / town accountant that's based in bylaw. In years past, we've had town accountant. As we redo the chart of accounts, we would update that title. So right now, it's just for town accountant's office, and it covers finance director, town accountant, and 2 assistants, one dedicated to basically serving a role as an assistant accountant. The other is doing payroll and benefits. So the biggest changes are what I needed Sharon to walk us through. We had met last week, and I just couldn't remember which numbers we had
Okay.
adjusted.
all right, so, let's see, for materials and supplies, we pretty much flat, we're actually down. If you look at Form 3, page 1. The third, see it?
Yeah.
Okay, so we went from last year's budget of 3633 to 3200. Where you see the big jump is under contractual services, and the reason for that is, if you look at audit, the annual audit jumped from an appropriation of 30,000 to 39,500. And if you look over to the left, you'll see that that's made up of $12,000 of a special audit for the library renovation project, and then our audit fee contract is 27,500, so that's 39,500 for audit.
So how does that get in the budget? Isn't that ongoing now?
They haven't started yet.
All right, but we did a reserve fund transfer of $12,000 in November to pay for that, so why is it going into next year's budget?
Well, the total estimate was,
We were told it was $12,000.
yeah.
So we transferred $12,000, so we should have that for that
Okay.
budget, unless
But
we
if
spent
that's
it on
the
something
case-
else.
Do you have that reserve fund transfer sheet?
That we looked at today?
Yeah.
Unless advisory didn't approve it, but we approved it.
Maybe, well,
Yeah,
want
we
me to go grab it?
approved the reserve fund transfer.
Yeah. Mine's different, mine's all looked at. All right, let me go see if I can.
Yeah, it looks like we're
Okay.
paying for it twice.
Well, I just want to make sure we're not paying for it twice.
No, we haven't
Right.
paid anything.
No, I don't mean it that. I just mean accounting for it for this year and last year.
So we were,
It will actually be encumbered next year, right?
Right.
You're not
So,
gonna be that-
so in
you
other
won't
words,
be
we have to
auditing.
put it back to general, we would have to put the transfer back to the general fund
Yeah.
and then encumber it again next year? Is that the idea?
yeah, because we're not going to, I estimated that we might spend $3,000 out of it this year by the end of the year.
All right, then it should go down to 9 for next year, and we should have 9 extra to
Well,
put
I thought
back.
the contract was, the original contract was 9 to 12, and then we extended the length of time, and it went to 12 to 15 was their estimate. But, so
They
that's how I
changed,
split
they
it up.
changed the price?
We changed how long we wanted them doing it.
Oh, for the project?
Yeah, yeah.
All right, but the 12 was clearly going to cover more than the portion of the project this year.
That was
Yeah.
actually a different reason. It was library. But it was the library builder's risk policy.
There was two.
There were two, the village risk and the library audit. They came up the same night, and we were concerned because they were both additional library-related expenses.
Yeah, I don't think we did that.
That's what the minutes say, that we were asked to review for tonight's meeting.
It said that it was approved, that
Yeah, it says we approved it.
approved.
We approved it.
What I have here is library project audit oversight, Melanson Heath, amount $15,000.
We approved to use it out of that budget.
That's right, we used it out of this year's budget, he's right.
We agreed to just pull it out of the budget.
That's right.
No one was here to say we didn't have money, so we assumed there was.
That's right, you're right about that. We
So that
approved the
was-
expenditure.
November 10th.
David wasn't there, was he? The one meeting, he wasn't there?
No, it's amazing how much money we spend when you're not around. You should see it.
So,
No vacations for you.
That's what it was, we shoved it in the budget.
Yeah, we took it off the
So-
reserve fund transfer.
It's believable to me that the lion's share would be next year's budget.
the
And
rule
it was
of,
never in this year's budget, so we were spending money you didn't really have.
right, how we look at these is, we keep track, and every time something comes up, we throw it on this sheet.
Yeah, so it was in this year's finance budget is what we did, but it didn't really come out of this year's finance budget, because as you explained earlier, we don't have any more left
Right.
to pull it out, so we do need it for next
And they
year.
haven't done any activity yet anyway.
Well, it's a few thousand, it sounds like, but so, that's
They
good.
haven't actually done anything. They're not talking about really looking at things until May.
Well, that's good, then we know we need it for next year.
Which actually, we adjusted this today, too.
Yeah,
To
you're right, we
reflect
did.
that.
Mhm.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the other item is the actuarial GASB 45. And David, you actually got that fee.
GASB 45?
Yeah. The actuarial on our pension. every 3 years, I think we have to do it.
Where did you just jump to?
Oh, I'm still under contractual.
The line above the library.
Oh,
Yeah, there was, we have an actuary from Siegel. We had her in one time and just talked about the OPEB liability.
Highlight of my career.
And they come in once every 3 years and they update it for the coming 3 years on what that liability is projected to be. And and this is the year we need to do it.
Okay.
so can we jump back down now?
Yeah,
Can you explain Harper's and Vadar,
yes.
please?
Yes. Okay, Harper's is our payroll system that we use, and that's what our annual fees are,
Okay.
$7,500. Now, Vadar is the new proposed accounting system, general ledger system, accounts payable system. And that's the contractual amount if we choose to go forward with this.
Does that replace the 7,500 or it's an addition?
It's an addition, yes.
So
That's a big jump, because I think what was,
that's just the annual fee. That's not the purchase of the software.
well, it's spread out over, is it 5 years, David?
I believe it's 6 years.
Yeah.
So we'll see that somewhere else.
You'll see it 6 years in a row, that amount,
Each year. Oh, the 21.5 is the purchase?
Yes.
over,
That's the purchase and the licensing for those years.
What they do is
Okay.
they take the total cost of the software. Not all of them do this, but this is what we worked out here. They'll take the total cost of the software and then they'll spread it over 6 years.
Oh, great.
And then, but we're only committed to a 3-year contract with them.
Right.
And after 3 years, then you decide whether you want to keep it for the next 3.
And
And then it would drop on year 7.
And the 21,500 is for the full 6 years, or that's
each year,
times 6 years, times 6?
per year.
Per year.
So it's 130,000 total commitment.
So that's a purchase and license. We get to keep it and it'll drop just to licensing. Correct?
You would be dropping the current Acela financial package.
No, maybe you just said it and you lost me. At year 6, where's the 21.5 gonna go?
At
It'll
year
drop out and we'll still own the software.
In year 7,
Year 7.
it would reduce, but you're still going to have an annual
License.
support cost and
Right.
the license for the software
We're purchasing. So we're not capitalizing that software. Do we never capitalize software?
and the cloud component of it, you would have to keep going as well.
Sure.
We don't capitalize.
Hey, David,
Yes.
we're still paying maintenance on the existing system, right?
We've paid the maintenance for the current year.
Right. So where would that savings show up in the budget?
It's not savings. You're not going to achieve a savings by switching to the new product. The new product costs more.
You don't understand, but you're not gonna have that maintenance cost.
Right, and I don't have it in here.
Right, so it's not in the
It's
budget.
not.
Well, is that the 15.2? Is the 15.2 the payroll plus the
Yes.
existing?
Yeah.
That's
budget?
what we budgeted for.
So,
last
so
year.
Mark, it looks like it goes from 7,500 to 21.5.
So it's just netted in there somewhere.
So it looks like.
Okay.
Well, the data processing services here, the 17,000 is,
The 15.2, you mean?
yeah, 15.2.
15.2 would be 7,500 plus another 7,700.
Yeah,
Right, right.
And so it looks like you're taking the 7,700 and turning it into 21,000.
When are you flipping over? Ideally.
July 1.
Okay, so you need at least a partial year of the dues for the other one covered. You can't shut the other one off July 2.
The support they've been giving already is practically non-existent, so they're not upgrading the product, they're not,
And we're not paying for a license for
Yeah,
that?
but will you have access to your own data?
yes,
You sure?
yes.
It's not on the cloud, it's on
We
our
still are accessing the data from the previous financial software from 6-7 years ago.
That doesn't mean they can't shut the license off and make it not work anymore.
They won't, I haven't seen anyone do that, but If so,
I guess I asked the question wrong. Would we be able to spend free cash to purchase it? If we had a situation where we had a lot of free cash, would it be possible to pull a 6-year back out and spend it this year?
yes, but this is 0% financing.
I'd say you wouldn't save anything.
Plus, we're only locked in for 3 years under David's plan.
Right.
And so if you didn't like it for some reason or something better came along, you could transfer it in.
Yeah, because it's a fun process to switch accounting software. I've been through it twice. It's really fun.
But if you have to, you have to, but I just wouldn't be comfortable with signing that check to someone in the hopes that it works out.
I was just asking.
There's probably other stuff we could spend.
I'm sure there's lots of
Other
stuff.
capitals.
Yeah.
This is a pretty good deal, and what we've, they've been working with us for a couple of months, and they're working on it now at no cost, basically on hoping that an amount gets appropriated.
Okay, so what else is different in here?
You see a jump in meetings and seminars
That's for the
for,
annual conference and the certified municipal accountant
accountant.
training.
Okay. But the big changes are in the payroll numbers.
Okay, and then payroll, yeah, go to that. The big changes there are the administrative assistant and the admin assistant. Currently, their rate of pay is $25.16, and we're proposing to bring that up to $29.17 for each of those employees, and I actually have...
We're going to handle that the same way that we do
Okay.
the select.
All right, then I'll change that. Okay, so this will change significantly.
These payroll numbers will change?
These will change a lot,
Okay.
yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that. So I'll just bring those back down to the 2%. So the only difference is the admin assistant currently works, she's budgeted for 24 hours, but we'd like to bring her up to 30, which is what she's doing now because of all the changes that have gone on in the department.
How many hours now?
She is doing 30 now.
She's been doing 30 for
Oh, what is she
Almost a
rated
year.
for? I just want to be sure we don't incur pension and...
24. So anything above 20, it's already a benefited position.
She's at
Okay.
24, yeah.
And on this temporary assignment, we had her as basically an assistant, interim temporary assistant town accountant, I think is what we...
All right, so we're going to end up with the same 3 positions, but one of them's going to have 6 more hours a week, is that the idea? Okay.
Yes.
6 more hours a week, but our budget went up $90,000.
Well,
Well, what David said is they're doing that differently.
I'm
You
gonna
get
change it.
New numbers on that.
So the 274, 169 isn't a real number.
that's going to change, yeah. The salaries will go down a chunk. And I will, I'm going to add version control. So next time you get anything from me, it'll have dates at the bottom.
Yeah, that'd be good, thank you. That's really good. All right, what other
Sorry.
budgets are we doing here?
No, that's a good
What did we-
thing.
No,
I like it.
I fully support it.
I fully support it.
Yeah. Thank you, Sharon.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Sharon. So David, town buildings, you want to tell us our master plan here?
Can we do Board of Selectmen?
You're really trying to get out of doing town buildings. Okay, let's do Board of Selectmen.
Let's do town building. Because Sharon's here and I'm going to keep her. In the past, if you remember, town buildings had like a general town building sheet, and then there was another page for each of the town buildings. So there was one for CM&D, one for town hall, and one for police department, fire. That gets pretty confusing, especially if your original budget numbers that you estimated haven't been adjusted correctly between the buildings. So I thought it would be easier if we just roll them all up into one town buildings budget, and then if we do end up with a facilities person, let them break out the correct budget projections in the new accounts. So if you look on page 3, you'll see a bunch of lines. And those are the lines that we want to collapse into one line. So septic maintenance would show up on one line, HVAC maintenance would show up on another, elevator would show up on one more. But before we collapse those, we'd like to get your thoughts on whether we should continue in that
I'm
direction.
sorry, are you saying you're collapsing those for each of the buildings, so all the purple ones will be combined and all the yellow ones will be combined?
Yeah.
There would be one line for each one of those.
And this, I think the chart of accounts have just kind of morphed kind of all over the place over the years. And, moving to Vadar is an opportunity to really streamline and standardize. And by doing this, it will set us up moving forward.
I think it's a lot easier to look at
Yeah.
once it's combined.
How are these administered now? Do you organize the HVAC maintenance trips so they do all the buildings at one time and everything like that?
Yeah, they're under, we have a contract with the HVAC people, so they're supposed to come in on the maintenance piece, and then we call them in as needed on other pieces.
So your numbers here for the individual buildings are really just your breakdown of how those maintenance contacts work?
Well, I'm not sure which line we pay the maintenance contract, the HVAC contract.
I have a separate line item just for,
Maintenance contracts?
HVA contracts, line item. Is HVA in there? Should-
Yeah,
Yeah,
HVAC.
but maintenance repairs are blended together.
Oh, yeah, they are.
HVAC maintenance repair.
It's okay, from my standpoint, I think combining those does make sense.
And then the contract fees and the repairs.
It makes sense, what's the advantage of,
I'm also
as long as you
trying,
know what buildings are costing you, what's the advantage of budgeting on a building-specific basis?
Not when you started with, it's not correct when you look at it.
So you're gonna lose that, or you're just not gonna have it on the sheet that gets handed in the annual budget?
Right now, we're not having it on this sheet, it's not.
In
gonna
the
be-
chart, especially when you move to Vadar, are you gonna be able to split out every bill you spent on fire station?
It's
It's
project
Yes.
accounting, right?
just not gonna be in the annual budget.
In the new chart of accounts, yes, it will definitely be nicely rolling up, but it's not
It'll
gonna,
all
won't
be,
be combined.
it'll all be the same, and then it'll just roll to one.
yeah.
So, but yeah, you'll have that ability to have projects.
But we're
But
anticipating
building.
that there would be somebody that would split it out the way that they would be projecting it and monitor it through the year and do whatever changes they need. But, we just kind of been rolling with numbers here and there for however long that they broke them out.
Right. And we saw last year some were wrong.
Yeah.
Some of the bills were just put in one place in the description and it didn't match.
Right.
And it could have been like that for 10 years.
Yeah.
So you're asking if this budget can just combine these, so we're not trying to pick apart numbers that
Right.
may not be accurately.
When you're looking from year to year at HVAC, you're looking at all-encompassing line, not individual pages of.
Hey, Mark, if you wouldn't mind putting your phone on mute, we're getting a little background noise.
Okay.
The salary request, if I could just
Yep. So originally we had talked about having a position and a half for facilities, and part of that, a part-time position
Personal services, 36,000.
would be like a part-time custodial position that would cover all town buildings, including the library. The library is included a half-time, I believe it's a half-time custodial position just for the library. So we reduced our request by that half. So what we're left with is just a facilities supervisor. We can call it a building superintendent, facilities supervisor, whatever we wanted to, but we were estimating 18 hours per week at $38.50 per hour. And that position came out to $36,036.
Good, because what I was leading up to is whether it was benefited with pensions and health insurance, the way municipal employment works is that if you have somebody who has those benefits, they have them basically for the rest of their life. After they retire, we continue to have these obligations. That becomes part of our OPEB liability. These are huge liabilities that end up being much larger than the payrolls that we're dealing with every year. So I want to avoid adding to that burden by making sure that positions that we add are not benefited positions with pensions and so on. Too big a burden on the taxpayers.
Okay.
And the answer I heard was this particular position is not a benefited position.
Correct, we have it at 18 hours.
And the
Unless it's
maintenance,
combined with the library position, because if we're gonna hire a bunch of part-time maintenance people, we might be better off hiring just one full-time maintenance person, even if they're benefited.
It's a tough call because then you end up with a full-time benefited person, but you need them to do higher level things, so you're paying them a high rate to do low level things.
We don't want
Set up
that.
a room.
Yeah, because you might choose to contract some of
We've
those
got
maintenance
that.
hours.
Well, so what are we gonna do for a supervisor then, David?
This is the supervisor.
This is the supervisor?
Yes.
Okay.
18 hours is the supervisor, 10 hours for the
And then
maintenance.
you've got
instead
people
of
doing the maintenance work underneath the supervisor.
At 10 hours a week.
Well, it sounds like more because of the library position.
Right, so you would have one person that's under the library, working at the library, and that's a position that's included in the library budget. For us, we're funding the maintenance contract to continue, and whoever this person is, we would leave it up to them on what changes they need to make to that contract, or whether they want to continue under that contract, or can that contract and do a transfer to make it a part-time custodian.
But the main purpose of this position, I thought, was going to be to administer the capital maintenance program.
Yeah, I mean,
And is there a
it's to-
reason not to make this position within CM&D rather than as a separate item underneath the selectmen budget?
Can you repeat that?
Well, in other words, is there a reason to have this building maintenance function reporting to you directly, so you're basically supervising the building maintenance person, rather than have them report through our CM&D director or through some
No.
other process?
No, it's funny. It's funny you ask, because I've been working with the CM&D director on their work order system that they work through, so that this facilities person, any department could enter a work order and assign it to the facilities person. So it would be going through the CM&D work order process. But it can be anywhere. There's no.
So why not have them part of CM&D?
I mean, I guess what's occurring to me as we start talking this through is there may be some efficiencies in figuring out how to reorganize the top positions at CM&D to pick up building maintenance duties as well as the highway duties, and maybe in terms of administrative support and in terms of management, you've got a better way to do things by combining those functions. I'm just throwing it out, David. I haven't really thought this all
The good thing
through.
is we don't have to change the name.
That's
It's already there.
That's a great
That's
But no, seriously, I mean, we've got building capital projects, we've got road projects, we've got road maintenance, we've got town facility maintenance, we've got town building and grounds maintenance. It seems a little strange to have two completely separate systems.
No, there's definitely a synergy that could be gained by going there.
Well, I was thinking.
And an underutilized facility.
Yeah.
I was thinking more practically, where is this guy going to physically sit? And every time I talk to you about town hall, it seems like town hall is pretty crammed.
He's not sitting here.
So if he's not sitting in town hall, where is he
He
sitting?
should. CM&D.
So if he's going to be sitting at CM&D physically, then why not integrate him into CM&D?
And it fits within the four corners of the name. Community maintenance and development. Whether you're working on the outside of a building or the inside of a building,
It's something to think about, and we've got some decisions on that
Right.
part
Yeah,
anyway.
we got a lot of work to do.
So,
Yeah, I think I think that could be I mean, if you, transfer station should be under CM&D as well. It's a, they have the expertise in the things that transfer stations do. But yeah, so,
You're muddying up a fairly simple conversation by throwing more stuff into it.
well, I'm saying that if you look at community maintenance and development, there are several things that should be under that. There should be cemeteries, there should be recreation, there should be land management, highways.
Yeah, so if it's getting too late to do it this year, then maybe it's too late to do it in this budget, but I think we've got a little time to.
I don't think it's too late at all, because CM&D is coming in front of you on the 23rd. I could just move the position there and have it be coming forward through the CM&D budget.
Yeah, but I think we need a.
Well, then it rolls up under who's that position reporting to?
Yeah, you gotta have a,
And then it
you
rolls
gotta have
into
a plan
contract
to make it
negotiation.
work,
Right.
so the budget works. We can't just pass a budget and then figure out afterwards how to make the process work based on the budgets. But I mean, you've heard the discussion, we've got three sort of similar ideas here, so,
Yeah.
and it sounds like you've been thinking somewhat along the same way. so-
Yeah, let me put something down on paper.
Okay, all right, good.
I would strongly urge you to not go after the cemetery, the dump, and other things all at the same time.
Well, you can't go after cemetery. I mean, but you can have.
I would strongly urge you to not go after 5 things all at once. Let's just worry about
I gotta agree
it.
with Sean.
Let's take care of the buildings that we've
20 years
neglected
time.
for a decade.
We can do the dump since we don't have a dump.
Well,
Sorry.
think about the buildings in line with CM&D and then forget about the other ones for now, even though that might be part of the master Dave Williams plan over the long haul.
Right. Okay. That's good. You want to do selectman office?
Okay. Fortunately, that's easy to find, because that was like the first tab.
Okay.
Thank you.
I have to go to advisory now, sorry.
Tell them hello.
I will.
Thank you. It's the first tab, Sean.
Yes.
These are
Yes.
In order of their.
I memorized the budget.
That's what I said them before, yeah, no.
I had the chart.
It's all
in
based
my
on
head.
budget number. We gotta have a better organizing system. Or just a table in the front that says what order they're in. An
Or even
alphabetical.
alphabetical.
Yeah.
Or just numbers.
I mean, normally, in a new chart of accounts, you'd have things would be in divisions of.
I'm just trying to make things easier for Sean at the meetings.
It's just a book.
We can recolor the tabs or something.
Okay.
So in this,
I'm with Sean, alphabetical's good.
if you look on
Dates.
page 1 of the budget pages, the only thing that should be included in that is the cost of living adjustment,
Yeah.
the correction of the 52.3 weeks down to 52, and any contractual obligations, which is me. And under my contract, it would be 6 months at the current year's salary, and then 6 months at whatever the COLA is.
Plus the COLA, right?
Yeah,
Exactly.
so that's why the increase looks a little strange.
Okay.
So I have a summary page at the beginning. Some of the changes we made are eliminated funding of the parking clerk stipend, which keeps getting carried for $600. And we would usually just try to use a bottom line budget and charge some part-time help to that. So what I did is move the stipend, get rid of the stipend, and then fix the rate of the clerical temp, the part-time hourly, to $25 per hour, and was able to increase 23 hours per year for that. So the change between
Without benefiting, making the position a benefited position?
it's not one person, it's just part-time help.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks, okay.
So there's nobody there that would be going over. So that by doing the flat rate and adjusting for just adding 23 hours, And then taking away the parking clerk stipend, the net impact is $6 decrease between the two lines.
Can we ask the assistant town administrator how many parking tickets we have a year?
I probably do maybe
How many hearings or parking
hearings,
tickets?
you know what hearings?
No, tickets.
We have quite a few tickets for them.
So this is
Farm Pond,
I've never gotten a parking ticket in Sherborn.
because you have a Farm Pond sticker.
Is this
You don't
going to
have to park across the
result
street.
in your getting paid less?
Well, no, if you remember, if we go back about 5 years ago, we had this long discussion about special employees that do two separate things. And we used to have a parking clerk, and he passed away. And so when that happened, there was nobody to do the parking clerk thing. So I took it over. And I was paid a stipend as long as I did it after hours, on the weekend, or when I was not doing my regular work. And then when we realized I wasn't a special town employee, and I would be subject to prison time,
Oh, for multiple
we
positions?
decided to take it out, give it the job to me, but not pay me for it.
So we've ridden that for about 7 years.
But why is there a one-time salary clerk temp $600 last year? Is that the same thing?
It's been budgeted every
Keeps
year.
every year.
Well, it's only in there for 1 year though, so that's why I'm curious. The only year you have in here is FY17.
Yeah, it was in previous years.
Was it rolled up into something else?
Yeah, just sort of finish the thought, the two positions need to be combined. I just want to be sure that you're not taking a pay cut.
No, I'm not taking a pay cut.
She took a pay cut when we decided to make her do it without paying her. That was when the pay cut occurred.
But I don't do that many of them. On a year, I might do 2 or 3 hearings. I might get a rash of them if there's a lot of tickets.
I don't want anybody to get a pay cut.
Or maybe we included it for this year to
So my
revisit
suggestion
the
was to move
stipend,
it into
but-
the clerical line item, and that would help defray some of the cost to have my minutes clerk continue to do the minutes.
with
And I
the
thought that would be a good use.
Yeah.
with the assistant town administrator position, we come up with a job description because there was no job description. And while I'm working with the personnel board on a classification and compensation study, personnel board would review the job description and see if they have any questions of it, and then I would bring it to the selectmen to actually approve the job description. And then it would be from that we would be scoring on the classification system. And in that job description, it includes many of the things that, or no, it includes all the things that she's already doing, which includes the parking.
Okay.
The other item was the COLA had been added to the senior tax credit.
I had a question about that.
But that doesn't change.
The minimum wage has gone up to $11. So the amount that's being paid to people that should go up.
What was, we were looking at it that what was approved was $11,000. And that was the last approval we had. We didn't really have an approval to 11,000 and keep increasing. So,
Not only that, we haven't ever hit 11,000 either,
Right.
so why are we carrying
Right,
extra
so-
money?
at 11,000, it's still going to cover a rate increase.
Okay,
It's
so
still 1,000 hours.
Last year we were at 8,200 actual.
I do want to be sure that people get paid the minimum wage and not, $4 an hour, $5 an hour.
They currently pay under the senior tax credit program at $10 an hour. And they're allowed to work up to 100 hours to get $1,000 off their tax
The
bill.
minimum wage is now 11 in the Commonwealth, starting January 1. So can we pay them $11 an hour?
I could do that, but they'll just work less hours to get to the $1,000.
Yeah, I mean, I would just check, it may have already been checked. I mean, it may have already been fixed, but we'll double check it.
I think we should do whatever statute requires, but we shouldn't raise it to 11 if the statute doesn't require us to raise it to 11.
The senior tax credit program is not under the statute. We adopted a separate program. It's a standalone program.
It's different than the statute.
Did we establish what the pay rate was in that program?
Yes, it was $10 an hour.
At town meeting?
Yeah,
We established that?
I think I
So
said.
unless state law preempts that, then it should still be $10.
Let me pull the
Minimum
original.
wage in Massachusetts is $11 an hour. And I would think not paying your seniors the minimum wage in Massachusetts is not a good thing.
Well, a
I
good
don't know
thing
if
or
it's-
required by law. If it's required by law, I agree with you, Paul. If it's not required by law and it's just a good thing, then we don't have authority to do it, it sounds like, if it hasn't been
I'll
approved
send
by
out
town
the
meeting.
paperwork to everybody.
Yeah, let me check on whether it's a labor issue or not, but I would think that they would have updated all those minimum amounts already. So it may be that I need to unroll.
Well, there should be somebody keeping tabs on this
Well,
in our vast finance department.
yeah, I mean, what I had sent up was that there was a wage change and that all the part-time positions had to be adjusted, but I don't know if the senior tax credit was picked up.
If somebody picked that up, okay. All right, what's next? Anything else?
There's an increase of $1,500 for the ZBA minutes clerk line item, and that's just due to anticipated extra work.
With all those 40Bs coming down the pike, you gotta have good minutes.
Yeah, we've really been stretched this year.
So this looks good, the budget.
You still recording ZBA hearings, Gene?
Item to the 40B, we have somebody who really knows what she's doing.
Is there a stenographer or somebody for the 40Bs, or?
That's what she does the planning board minutes, Samantha Shepherd, she does planning board and she did the field, she's doing close
So,
crop.
but we do have the ability to have a transcript of those hearings if we need to. We have a recording or something?
No,
Oh.
she does them by hand.
We should have a
I
recording
thought
of
we
those.
made it clear we wanted DSCTV to be recording all those.
Well, this CTV should be, but if they're not, we should at least have,
You want those?
I think we need a recording just to protect us, since we seem to get sued for every 40B, no matter what the decision is.
DSCTV, the only thing they added this year, I think was, I shouldn't say the only thing, was the Board of Health meetings.
But in 3 weeks, they're gonna come back with their master plan to add
Yeah.
everything and to fix all the equipment, remember?
Right. And 2 years running, we've made it clear that our desire would be all regulatory meetings would be recorded. Oh, yeah.
So would you want them televised or do you want a voice recording?
I don't think.
There's two things going on here. One is we definitely want to record it in some fashion.
Okay.
Two is Sean's pointing out that ideally you'd have important meetings televised too, but
Yeah, and I would say that many of those 40B meetings, people would be eager to see.
yeah, but there's two separate points. One is that recording is really a legal protection for the
Yeah,
town, so
right.
that there's a
Okay.
transcript. Hopefully it's legal protection for the town. It could end up being legal protection for the developer, depending on what people say, but we want to know what the, right? I mean, we want to know what the transcript of we want to be able to have a transcript of a hearing if we needed one. And we can't do that if somebody's just taking their own notes. And then the other is the public information component where the town, as Sean said, should be able to see what's happening at 40B meetings even if they can't show up because somebody's recorded them and they're on YouTube or they're on the local access. Okay. Anything else?
For budgets, we reviewed selectmen, town building inspector, and accountant, so that was
Okay, that was what we wanted to get through today.
On the selectmen's budget, I want to make sure that we have money set aside for environmental consultants, things like that.
Well, there's a $9,000 consulting line item, and then, as we recall from earlier in the meeting, we had that town meeting item from last year that hasn't been spent. Somebody said it was 30-something thousand?
It was $35,000 that sunsets No, 2019.
All right, so we've got a couple more years.
Wait a minute,
We need that.
that can't be right.
The $9,000?
In 2016, $991 on consulting?
I mean,
That's not right.
I'd have to go back and have them printed out. But,
I thought we maxed that and then asked for reserve, or am I a year off?
Well, I think you're off.
it may have been transferred. I'd have to actually look at the printout to see if there was a transfer out of there at the end of the year to be charged somewhere else. That's kind of what they do at the end of the year under the Municipal Relief Act. If there's someplace else that they could charge it to. But I'll double check.
Because that's where we'd be pulling it if we didn't have that capital. Right?
Yeah, should that
Or at
be,
least that's where it should be coming.
should that be a bigger number?
Well, $9,000.
If we didn't have the capital, wouldn't have even covered what we spent tonight.
Right.
That's my point.
$9,000 isn't much for
Nothing.
consultants.
If you want to,
All right, but we're gonna have a 100% or more override of our legal budget?
if you look at, yeah,
So, I mean, there's two ways to do this, and we talked about it with the legal
I
budget.
talked about it last week.
Well, we talked about the legal budget, yeah. I mean, yeah, one is you put in the budget what you think you're gonna spend, and the other is you put in the budget what you hope you're gonna spend.
Yeah, but maybe all the more reason to keep these two separate, because we're hiring TRC, they're not looking at our budget.
Well, this doesn't go to them anyway, right?
I know, well, this is what we would have spent for TRC.
Oh, no, but we have this warrant article, so we're not.
Exactly, but in the absence of that warrant article,
Yes.
that's what we would have spent.
David,
When 40B comes down and we immediately want to hire a consultant, we did, we were doing a reserve fund. And I guess the question is, do you always want it to have to trigger a reserve fund, or do we want a budget? Will we,
advisory in recent years has wanted to build their reserve, and there have been telling departments to, that they would take it like an earmark in their reserve for whatever reasons.
right, there's just the potential for a 1 month lag. Right?
It's just that there's likely to be a lot of 40Bs this upcoming year. We still have general chemical.
General chemical is a different fund altogether.
On this sheet is the roll-up of selectmen departments. So if you look at that on the second page, it has the totals
And what they were for?
of the the totals of all the budgets. If you wanted to see where you're at about adding money, 2017 budget line was the second column, and that was $4,133,000. The current year, 2018, is $4,470,000.
We're not
on the same page as you.
We're not looking at the same, where's that sheet?
There was a handout.
Oh, it's this thing.
Yeah. There you go.
It's a roll-up of all the section departments.
Gotcha.
So if you go to page 2, the first column is FY16 actual, the second column is FY17 budget, the current year budget. And then there's an FY18, the fourth column is FY18 recommended or requested. So basically, it's like a $380,000 increase. I believe I calculated it out, it's about an 8% increase over advisory.
What's the projected number based on, David? I'm just wondering, the selection salaries is so different between projected and requested. Is that because of the contract component?
No, I would need her to answer what she did in that column. That's why I just stuck.
Because projected just looks wrong, it's not.
Right.
It doesn't have any, unless it's, and we did this last year too, and I just don't think it's helpful. Is that a comparison to the initial budget before there was any input? Maybe that's what that is, I don't know.
I don't think
I don't think it's helpful to put in an interim budget that never was approved or proposed or anything and use it as something to compare to. It just doesn't make sense.
I'm guessing that this,
It almost matches the 2017.
well, I was going to
Most
say, I
places.
think that should say 2017 projected, that she tried to do a projection to the end of the current year, which would make sense that there'd be a column there.
Some numbers are down by a few, some numbers are up.
But there's nothing in front of zoning board, and we know zoning board spends some money. I don't know.
Yeah.
That doesn't look right to me either, because otherwise, well, whatever, maybe it is.
Well, the first and second column, and then the fourth one, your books should roll up to that fourth column, which is the 4 million.
Anyway, to your point, this is a good summary of everything that's out there under our budget. David, what was your thinking on selectmen office staff hours? I know we've had several discussions in the past about whether you needed more in that office or...
We definitely thought that we needed more time. Actually, I did add more time. And when we met with Sharon today, the 2 hours,
We had 2 hours to change.
Okay.
she...
So is that reflected in this budget too? Or did you not get to really upset that?
I formulated.
So by adding hours, are we changing a position from unbenefited to benefited?
No,
Sorry to
I'm
sound-
already benefited.
Okay, I have to,
Paul, just say question 1 from now on.
The correct sheet is in your book. If you look at the salary line, it has the admin assistant's position going from 24 hours per week to 26.
good, with that answer, I have to support that. Life is easy.
Okay, all right, good. All right, do we need to do anything with this yet, David? It sounds like there's a little bit more work.
With the selectman office,
Yeah, with this budget.
I don't think that's, unless you want to change the consulting line.
I don't want to change it, others may, I don't know.
No, we don't need to.
Dangerously.
Huh?
I like to live dangerously.
I'm not saying we're gonna change it. It'd be good to make sure that last year's numbers are right. In case someone looks at it and wants to look at the 3-year average, and it looks like we bumped it up more than we bumped it up.
What I want to do, I'll double check compare the updated sheets to this and see what they were intending for that column to be. And then see how much we're over, which I thought was like 380,000, and then try to break that out so that you can see just where the overages are.
So $380,000 over?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at, I don't want to discuss it tonight without the chief, but, the police salaries is 200 of that, and then fire is 35,000,
Legal is another.
10,000, 70. So, it's kind of spread through there, but I want to extract out from here, and maybe just give you a sheet that has what the total overages are.
All right, but also the components, because anything that's contracted for or that's our cost of living is understandable in one way, and then anything that's just an additional expenditure, we're going to have more trouble defending with advisory.
Right.
Although George and Mary, I think, were on board with increasing the 1,000, so.
Yeah,
Which is woefully under budgeted anyway.
I think the biggest discussions with advisory will be under town buildings and then the public safety ones.
Yep. Okay, very good. All right, what's next?
Just a footnote on town buildings, we still have in the capital section, the annual 1/20th of a 20-year capital plan to cover deferred maintenance and
Yeah.
necessary improvements.
So why don't,
Those aren't budget items, those are
yeah.
in the capital.
One we gotta talk about.
Why don't we look at the warrant checklist and just look at the capital items, start coming down. Did you get the printout from the capital? If you look at Article 15, that's the, this is it. This is the town buildings recommendation. So the first item there is Pine Hill School capital improvements, 81,000. Actually, yeah. And then the next item is fire department dry hydrant repair, which is we've been adding that in about every other year to do repairs and testing of dry hydrants. Replacing the fire department pagers, 16,000. There's a snow fighter vehicle in here for 197,000, dump truck for 80,000. Then we added in this various road improvements for 450,000.
What is that about?
That's, it would be for various road improvements. The intent. I didn't mean to say that, actually. I was thinking when Ed was coming in. He'll be in next week.
Coming in next week.
And we've met with capital budget on this, and we've talked to Heather, the treasurer, about how we could better utilize Chapter 90 and having something in our pocket.
Oh, in other words, you actually start projects when all the other towns start?
Right.
During the season?
Yeah, that'd be good.
So this,
But do some sidewalks in that 450,000.
these items have already gone in front of capital, and they were recommending that we add something for the road improvements as a capital item to be drawn from.
So in other words, to have like a float in the bank.
Exactly.
So it's replenished from.
So you don't have to do
Yep.
an interfund borrowing, waiting for Chapter 90 or a revenue anticipation note. Because we technically can't spend those Chapter 90 funds until we receive an approval letter for the project. The other item the next item is for police department, police vehicles. There are 2 vehicles. And this is something that I would need the Board of Selectmen to approve. Each year, the police vehicles are budgeted in the police department operations budget. After we talked about it, and the reason was the threshold is $5,000 or $10,000 or a useful life of 5 years is what the capital budget committee's threshold is. If you put the police department vehicles under that, it never gets looked at by anybody. It just is in the operating budget. We thought it should be looked at as a fleet, and I did some research with the Department of Revenue, and it seemed like that's how they were judging communities, or recommending communities look at it as a fleet, which would have a useful life greater than the 5 years and greater cost than $10,000. So we discussed putting it in as a capital item and taking it out of the operational budget.
Wouldn't a vehicle have a greater life than 5 years anyway?
The replacement schedule, police will be in.
Our police vehicles do, Paul.
Police will be in next week, but
7 years or something, right?
in the
Not useful.
the rotation is
But they can get
Beyond their useful life.
the replacement schedule.
I mean, when they park it at highway department for a year with a long transmission, it's beyond its useful
Yeah,
life.
The replacement schedule is a 3-year schedule,
for all the cars.
not for all the cruisers.
Okay.
So there are other vehicles like the chief's car
Chief's
and
car.
the lieutenant's
Right.
car. Those are getting 10, 12 years.
That's what they were on, 7-year cycle.
No, it's 1.5, they're buying 1.5 a year.
And it's just it's the other cars that are on the longer cycle.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had emailed the police capital at one point, and it was, it had their full vehicle schedule and the years going out 20 years for their replacement schedule. Which you'll bring in next week. So is there support to keep that as a capital item? So that
It's capital budget one of them, right? Or what do
yeah.
they call that?
I can't say it originated from
Advisory
they
board.
supported it. Yeah, advisory liked it too.
Okay.
Um,
So what are you looking for from us on that, David?
I just need to know if I can leave it there or move it, if you need it. If you want it,
Do you want a
move it
motion,
back.
or do you want us just to talk about it until you leave it there?
Leave it there.
Makes sense to me.
Mark, anything on this?
Yeah, I would sort of support it. I mean, for me, it's look at it, sweet.
So it'll get a little funky looking at the police department increase because the only way you can fairly look at the increase is take it out of last year's budget.
Very apples to apples.
Yeah. The next one is Town Center build and test full-scale well, that's on the Town Center Water Options Committee. That's $100,000. And then they also have another item for site engineering for recharge of wastewater, that's $40,000.
Can I ask on the recharge on the build and test full-scale well? You may recall that as part of the settlement of the Whitney Farms, we have a contract in place that allows us to have a well site at that location. The reason why that location is important is that it allows us to tap into one of the best aquifers in the Metro West area, which is the aquifer that supports all the Holliston wells. It is a beautiful aquifer with high quality water and high volume. And while it's not at the center of the town, it has all the indicia for easy permitting. There's 400 feet of protected area around it. It has a direct connection to the Holliston aquifer. The problem with the site was that its distance from the downtown, which is where the water is needed, and there was like I think an estimated $3 million cost of bringing the water from Whitney Farms to the downtown area. But there's been a whole series of SRF grants being issued. Millions of dollars are being given to communities to build water infrastructure. With our need and DEP's recognition of the situation in the downtown area, it seems to me we could get a lot of state funding to pay for that transmission. So where are they going to put this well?
Crestwood Mills, the end of Morse Road.
Yeah, but that's a well that had magnesium in it and was slow volume and didn't.
That was that particular well. They're gonna put a new one in. That was a driven well that had been put in decades ago. So it wasn't indicative of the aquifer that's there. It was the well itself that sat stagnant for so long.
But we got the other location. It's a proven aquifer. You can have expedited permitting on it because the quality of the aquifer has already been tested and retested and is monitored.
So we're going to pipe water from Whitney Farms to downtown past all those properties on Maple Street and Western Avenue and every place else. So, I mean, you're really talking about a big planning and development, proposal for the town hall. You've now given developers access to water. You've blown out our 3-acre and 2-acre zoning.
Not if you have a special act creating a water district.
As a practical matter, you've blown out our zoning if you've got access to public water.
Not if you have an act that says no one can tap into that.
The other issue with that is Cadillac paints. That's down gradient of Cadillac paints.
That's
It's not
moving
been
very
cleaned up.
slowly.
What's up?
It's moving very slowly. That's the...
The cleanup or the plum?
No, the cleanup. It's very slowly.
Yeah.
So it'll work for like 10 years.
Is there a cleanup at Cadillac?
It'll be very slowly.
See nothing change.
I don't know. It just seems to me that seems...
I know they put a lot of work into it. They're meeting almost every week lately.
Yeah.
So, and they're meeting tomorrow night, I believe. Maybe you can mention something to Roger to respond to that.
Is the idea that just the water would be better?
In the Holliston
It's a little
aquifer?
paintier, it sounds like.
No, it's a good aquifer. It supplies water to basically all of Holliston, and they have surplus. So it's a high potency, high quality aquifer that we would tap into if we use that site. That's why we have the right to do it.
We should have done it before we paved Maple Street. I don't know, I mean, I admire your creativity, Paul. I don't think that that's consistent with what they're trying to do in downtown at all. I think, even if there's a special act, I think it's risky for the town to do that unless they want to have a public water supply in that entire side of town.
But what are we going to do from Price Woodlands to the downtown?
It is in the downtown. I think the
It's a
plan was punch the well, they can come through town forest, put a large pumping station at CM&D if they need to, and they can follow the pipeline that's already there up to Pine Hill to put the tank up there, I think. And then they tie into the pipe that's already there in downtown.
Well, could we have them in? And
Proximity. We should have them in.
Oh, we absolutely should have them in, yeah.
So this is the first I'm hearing about this proposal at all. And
You don't get their notes.
Yeah, I think
You got them?
I do. I'm sorry if nobody else is getting them.
You should get your notes for
You were
it.
getting them too, right?
Yeah, I get them.
Roger's emails?
Yeah.
Yeah,
You should get on Roger's list.
I don't get any of
Okay,
those.
yeah.
I think the original NOI that he submitted was just a general explanation, but
Yeah.
It is, and they have consultants they've worked with.
Can I ask a question on this?
Yeah, sure, Mark.
The well and the engineering, can we really capitalize these things if they're not part of a full-scale project?
you would
Any other
definitely,
question for David?
you would definitely get higher priority if you had a multi-unit development such as
No, that's
office and
No, he's asking from the
residential.
town standpoint, can you capitalize it? Not whether the state will give us money for it, but whether the town can count this as a capital item if it's not part of an actual capital project, it's an experiment or
I forget who I had that conversation with, either George or someone else. They brought it up because they looked into it. And I thought the answer was it's capital leading up to a much larger capital project.
Right,
It
as
would
if
be
it was
allowed.
engineering or design or something.
Right, well, you might be able to go back and recapture it if we ever did the project, but in the absence of that, I'm not sure we can, at least in the commercial world, we can't, I don't think we can capitalize it, but maybe you can just have a conversation with somebody.
But why spend our money when there's so much state money for this?
I think they're looking into state grants for this, but I don't know that they've had any luck yet, right? I mean, that's,
They just awarded millions of dollars. I was just listening, I was just at a meeting where they were going through who they were going to award all this money to. They want to improve water, drinking water in the Commonwealth.
I think having Roger
I
come in for the discussion.
think tomorrow night's meeting, isn't it tomorrow night? Is to finalize their presentation, and perhaps we can ask them to come make it to us before they. I know
They're
that
definitely going to come in and talk about their.
can we get him in at the next meeting, get Roger in and whoever else?
For the 23rd.
It sounds like that would be helpful for people. It sounds like it's already going to be a long meeting, so that's.
While we're talking about state aid, I was going to send you, David, an email that I was at a meeting with the administration on Tuesday, and they were saying that they're putting a lot of money into IT grants, and they're going to be pushing IT grants. And they're doing a new round with March being the time to apply, and they want to pump out a lot of money to improve town websites and all that kind of stuff. Better transparency, better, it feels better democracy to have people be able to access their government better through the website. So they want to pump a lot of money to communities. And if you're a community compact community, you have a step up, so to make a long story short, the suggestion was made, why doesn't Sherborn apply for an IT grant? And I pass that on to you. Don't we need to make improvements to our website? There's money out there, and why not throw in an application for that?
Yeah, we had already committed to reprogramming the website, updating the website, and through the other IT technology grant that you had mentioned before, through the community compact that we were able to add on to. That pretty much paid for
They
the
paid for
phone
the
system,
whole new phone system.
which is pretty incredible too.
We had 2 grants and paid for the whole phone system, the new phone.
Is there anything more we can add on this year to the community compact? I mean, how many times can we go back to that?
They're appropriating $8.5 million.
So can we ask for like 8.3 of that, and some of the other towns have the rest of it?
If you don't ask, you don't get.
That's right. No, but is there a chance to add on a component to our compact, David?
I don't think you keep adding compacts. I think once you complete the compact, you can.
That's it.
No, I don't think that's it. I think you can apply for other compacts, but we're not technically done with. We're done with that technology.
The capital one we're done with, right?
The capital, no.
Capital plan?
No, that is developing a kind of a quantitative tool for assessing the vehicles, and they're still working on
There.
from that. And that would come along with the policy for. And then the capital.
Well, the people who make
The
those,
on-site inside of the town buildings, that was paid from.
Well, that's what I thought we were talking about.
Yeah.
the people who make the decisions are suggesting that Sherborn apply. So I would
We will.
pass that on,
That's good.
because there's a funding round in March.
Tell them to keep their eyes open.
It's almost March, David. Okay. What's next here?
Let's see, so then, that's the town center. And then the next one is town buildings. So, I had already been working on a capital plan, a 25-year capital plan, had identified a lot of projects, and going through the out years, and then looked at those projects and tried to split them into what is maintenance and what is capital. So what should go into a maintenance plan, what should be in a capital plan. So, I want to pass this out, and that might help.
Were we going to set up a sinking fund also for the capital items?
Yeah, I mean, this is basically what this would be. You have two.
So you create it through a capital line item rather than actually creating a fund?
If you look under Article 14, it says capital improvement plan. It was kicked around that there would be above that there was a stabilization.
Oh, there it is, the reserve fund, that's what I'm looking at, yep.
Yeah.
The placeholder.
So, establish town buildings capital improvement reserve fund, $531,000. And then if you look within the capital article, I have $1 million in there. So, you can have a reserve, which is how the on-site insight reports were done. It was to fund a reserve, and then annually you would pull some money from that reserve plus appropriate new money. And over time, you're building up that reserve. The school doesn't do it that way. The school basically, they have a list of projects that they bring in, they get approval for it, it sits in the capital item, and that's the article that they charge all their projects to. So either way.
Well, we did that, though. The school tried, when they did their on-site insight, they had, I don't know how much it was, probably $1 million worth of stuff that was booked into it. And were you on the board?
For year one?
Well, for year 1 through 5, I think, and the Board of Selectmen chose, don't bring that all up as one article. Well, do you remember that, Paul? You guys basically asked them to come back 3 years in a row, we're gonna back it in those chunks. So,
Right.
I think because it was a little easier to stomach.
So
And it became kind of commonplace that Frank would get up and make that presentation at town meeting.
Yeah, about 300 a year.
Right. And then it fell off, mostly just because of administrative overhead, turnover at the region. It was hard to get $300,000 worth of work done.
Well, right, I think the other thing was they pulled back the last few
They
years.
pulled back a couple because they needed time to
Yeah.
engineer.
So that was
The
2
school
years
is on a
ago.
tough cycle because you have to get stuff done in the summer.
So what I had told George is that I thought it would be easier just funding through the capital, as a capital item. And if they want to have a stabilization fund with various reserves in it, they can do that without appropriating or creating a special reserve fund, stabilization fund for town buildings. So just let them build up their reserves.
Well, what portion of this million are you really asking for this year, David? Do you recommend we
I think we gotta be realistic. If we go to the voters for $1 million debt exclusion on top of what looks like
we can't do that.
No, you,
11 or 12 other
right,
override requests, it's not gonna work.
right,
So it's gotta be more like in the $300,000 category than the $1 million category.
right, so what, if you look at this sheet that I just passed out, on the left side are the years going down, FY18, FY19, 20, 21, and 22. And then in the middle, I have FY 2018 urgent priority 1 and FY 2018 urgent priority 2. So there are projects that total $560,000 that I've identified as urgent priority 1 projects. It's what I still don't know how to get the whole thing into. So I don't know if I create 5 different books for you to look at, or just email you the PDFs. I don't know how to do the review with you if you want to look at everything.
Why? Because there's too much material?
Yeah.
Well, just send us PDFs if you want.
So I'll send you the PDFs that.
Yeah, and then if somebody wants to have you print them out or ask you questions about them.
So this is a good example of the tail wagging the dog.
Yeah.
If the person was on board, we would be handing this stuff over to them and they would redo the priorities.
Right, but we have certain items we know we have to put on, like the police department, which we deferred twice now.
Right.
I mean, we've got to put that on.
That's in here. So that was we have the quote for the roof on the police department.
And the HVAC.
Yeah. Well, we had approval already for.
We could have done a roof. The problem is we didn't, it's the HVAC, it's the bigger animal,
And now we've
which is a common theme.
with them that the ceiling tiles are falling down. Because they were not sized right, so they don't fit right into the grates. So, because they're old, and they're getting,
But they get brittle and smaller.
they're actually just falling out of the ceiling. So, we're looking at that right now, so.
So,
Yes, Mark?
Yeah, David, do we have a total capital number, advisory or guidance at any time?
no. I think I had told them early on to plug in $1 million capital, but I don't think that they had decided how much they would fund through free cash or how much should be borrowed.
Right, didn't we have to give us a total either way?
Yeah.
I think we can sell this maintenance thing, let's pick the right number, and we gotta get up and, tell both sides of the story that we're not only investing in, the actual maintenance work, but we're also investing in the organization. If somebody needs to stand up at town meeting, talk about our, I don't think we want to wait another year, right? We want to get the approval for this, and be able to hire people we think we need. And I think the putting a TNT next to us, that's to me.
Can I just add to what Mark said, that A lot depends on what our free cash number is. If our free cash number is $100,000, then we're in one quandary. If our free cash number is $5 million, then we're in an entirely different position. What bothers me is what's listed on the sheet of all these ballot questions. So we're going to go to the voters and ask them to increase the tax rate for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 ballot questions, even if we combine them into multiple purpose ballot questions. We're asking the taxpayers to spend a lot of money increasing their own taxes, whereas if it should happen that we get a good free cash number and there's money available, then it makes a lot more sense to take some of that free cash and to use it on some of these projects.
Well, that's what happens every year, right? That's what the advisory recommends every year, and it comes up, a week or 2 weeks before town meeting, whenever it is that they have their meeting, their hearing. That's when they make those decisions.
Yes, but the point I'm trying to make is that I wouldn't start eliminating projects now when we don't know what the free cash number is.
I also want to agree with Mark and clarify my point. I wasn't saying we should wait another year. I think there's a couple things we've waited several years. I think we just need to we need to come up with a good plan of how we're going to handle it.
It is a big number, though. The Article 15, even without the $1 million or $500,000 for town building, is $1.4 million. And that includes $450 for the advance on the road maintenance, but it's a big number.
Yep.
It is. It's a big number. So even if you're looking at 300,000, if you did the police department HVAC, the roof's already appropriated. The alarm panel replacements that we cut out last year.
Generator.
I think there were 2 generator replacements in there. You're at 300 something.
Okay.
So at least should do that. I think the voters should go along with the $300,000 level, in part because they have gone along with that with regard to the regional schools for a while. So, but going in with 1.4 million or something like that, particularly where we don't have an advocate, we don't have somebody who's going to do the PowerPoint presentation and all that, that's just asking us to do a lot of work and likely not be successful.
Yeah, the 1.4 is with $0 for building, so you're talking 2.4 if you had $1 million in there. So
Well, we're going to send Paul off the state, grab some money for that $450,000 of roof.
So why don't I just focus on $400,000 of projects, and then I'll send you all this stuff, but use this as justification why you actually need a position to be doing all of this stuff and maintaining it, because it's way beyond.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll give that number to advisory. And then if they did have enough free cash to be doing other things, then they could add on. They could put it in the reserve too, a stabilization.
Can you set up a reserve line on this where you would just divert the rent from the cell towers, for example?
Yes.
You do a capital.
The Municipal Modernization Act, they allow you to set up stabilization accounts with dedicated revenue. So now you're able to add the additional feature that if you have a revenue source, instead of it going to the general fund, you can have it go directly to the
I wonder if we should
It has to go to
do
that.
something like that.
Doesn't it have to go to that item?
Does it have to be dedicated to the
It can be dedicated to a stabilization.
Yeah, because I know that like Dedham just passed a particular kind of warrant just like that, where they diverted some revenue fund into another account.
And the
Didn't I know
stabilization
one of
fund
those?
doesn't have to be for that particular purpose, it can just be.
For any purpose.
Yeah.
What people are using it for, I've seen it, the Modernization Act is relatively new, so not many communities have had a chance to fully implement it. But what I've seen is somebody devoting the meals tax to OPEB directly. And you could say, what does meals have to do with OPEB? They don't have to be, it doesn't have to be an OPEB tax going into OPEB. You can put it into a fund for any purpose.
What are you gaining by that?
You're just gaining a steady income stream, so you don't have to, there's not as much brain damage.
There's
Every
not-
year about where's the money coming from.
There's no appropriation necessary on an annual basis. The money is dedicated, you vote once, and until you vote again, all of the revenue from that source goes automatically into that account.
You have to vote to appropriate it out of that.
Yes. Yeah.
So I'm
But
still
you
not
have-
seeing,
It's building up over time,
Yes.
it's building up a reserve.
it's building up a reserve over time. And it's taking care of the hard stuff that you don't want to take care of, like creating a sinking fund for capital projects that is going to be hard to do.
Yes.
I don't think we have a reserve policy. Most places have a reserve policy and then they break down the stabilization fund with this, and something like that could go in there.
Yeah, I mean, not necessarily for this year, I think it couldn't be for this year at this point, but we should really think about ways to make that aspect of it easier on the town. And I think one way is figure out what revenue streams we have, reliable revenue streams. I don't know if our meals tax raises very much in Sherborn, but, you know, we do have those cell tower leases, maybe there's some other sources of revenue I'm not thinking of, and see if it would make sense to do that.
Yeah, the cell tower, these payments is going to be increasing nicely. Sean, you thought that Penny Hill already set up a funding mechanism like this?
Who?
Oh,
Yeah, well, Pine Hill did, I don't know if it falls under that, it was years ago, because up until either last year or the year before, they were renting 2 or 3 classrooms. And I know they were using that revenue stream, but they were dumping it, they were ensuring, I think, that they dumped it back into the building,
They may have done it within
and
their.
not sending it to the region.
There's a statute creates an automatic revolver for rental of school buildings.
So it would rental.
Okay.
So it would operate.
It's already there, by state law.
So similar to that, though, it was staying there, within their budget, I think.
But under the municipal relief act, was it that they could dedicate that revenue to go into a stabilization fund, or can they dedicate it to go into a reserve?
The reserve funds is the end at the end of the year.
I mean, a revolving fund.
Yeah, you can put it into a revolving fund, yes. You can dedicate it to any fund you want.
Yeah, let me talk to George more about it. I mean, I don't know if you could write the motion up under that one article that.
No, I think you would have to have the revenue side of it covered too, dude. I mean, would you?
Well, you got something. You just take the 2 towers here, and they are.
Right, that's true.
Well, I mean, establish town buildings capital improvement reserve fund, and in the motion, you would identify the source of.
Oh, yeah, okay, I see what you're saying, yeah. All right, so we should think about that. All right, what's next? Next is records management.
That, I thought it should be broken out because of the number of components in it. I think we briefly talked about it.
It still looks like in a year where we've got so much other capital, this doesn't seem that pressing.
We can continue to, patch, like clean up the mold and that kind of thing out of the existing town buildings budget.
Is that what the vault renovation is?
Yeah, the vault renovation is to fix the air quality that's in there. That was never addressed. It's not, they put a dehumidifier in there.
And then connect it to the That could be environment connected to that, so it drains out some of this,
But you also got a quote from your HVAC contractor to actually fix it.
Yes, that's much.
A lot of money.
Right.
You might want to just combine the HVACs that you need to do here.
And then the codifying the bylaws, that we looked at that as a separate article one time before. Carol said that she could use some document preservation money because of the older documents that were in the vault. So we just kind of balled it all into one lump sum, but it's a big amount.
So we should cover the older documents, like older town records and things like that.
Yeah, but basically they're of a, I mean, Carol can explain it better, but they're degrading to they've degraded so much that the state can come in and repair your documents and basically give you the bill, from what I understand. If you're not taking care of your documents. So, on one hand, I said, Carol, let's wait and see, let them do it and send us the bill. And we'll worry about paying it, but this was just trying to take care of a lot of these items. The codifying the bylaws was supported by me, Carol, and Gina from the planner.
I think it's a great idea, but I also think if we have an upgraded website, it's pretty easy to just keep upgrading the bylaws. I mean, that's kind of the town clerk's job, right, to make sure that bylaw compilation is up to date.
Right.
And online, so they can directly, if you have the bylaws on the website, every time there's a town meeting, there's a change to a bylaw, you simply make the change there, and anybody wants it, prints it up themselves.
Many small towns do that. I mean, larger towns do this municipal code service. It just seems, to me, that seems like a luxury for us, given all the other stuff we've got. I mean, I don't know that I would support it this year. I know it's a good idea in terms of somebody else's, organizing your laws, but, and Dover did it, but I just don't know that we need to do it.
Well, we have made some improvements on, which goes back to a question you asked earlier that I didn't answer, about the staffing. We've made some improvements this year. I think the new website design will be a big improvement. We've had purchased the FOIA Direct software, which is to handle the FOIA request.
Mm-hmm.
So over time, you're going to be putting all your documents into that system to be searched, addressed. They can print from there. And then we also have another piece of software that we're implementing with the clerk's office. I don't know the name of it, but basically it keeps track of all the boards and committees much better than any individual one of us, because we each have our own tracking system. And so each month we can just say, what are the vacancies? It'll print out the report, we can post the report. Anytime that we want to produce a list of who's active on the committees, when their terms are, you can get it like that, instead of what we do now is we come up with what our guess is, and then we go check to see when they were actually sworn in and that kind of thing.
So the key's going to be getting all the information entered accurately.
Well, this election company enters all the data entry into the box.
Right.
So they show up and look through the books and do it?
We'll give them this information, all the data entry.
Well, that's what I'm saying, it's the source of the information. The problems we have here is when we get a list, you have a list, you've kept a list or whatever, and there's a couple of names on it that are just wrong. So if that gets into the database, then it's always going to be wrong.
Right.
But the upkeep
Once
can
it
be
gets in,
synced
once it gets in the first time.
live when
that's
you
fine.
go get sworn in.
Right.
Right.
You sign a book, and it
Right.
somehow triggers, I guess it would make someone in the clerk's office goes,
The software was very reasonable.
Yeah, it would just be it's just the initial setup, it sounds like,
Right.
where you gotta be really careful about it.
So when there's a resignation from somebody, they would notify us to, that there's a vacancy, but it would be, everything would be have a higher confidence level in
That's
it
great.
than what we have now. And greatest thing about it is it's not going to be in our office. It would be in the clerk's office, as the clerk's office maintaining it, because they maintain all the swearing in and the oaths of office and all that.
And they have time to do that?
Yes.
14 hours a week.
Without,
She already agreed, so
Good.
She's got it.
No, it's part,
that's a done deal.
without making any more benefited positions, pension positions.
That's a question we want. It's funny you ask.
Funny you asked, but you could have the clerk in to explain.
That's it. I've never heard of that piece of software. That's a great.
It's great, I saw the presentation as well.
There's one part of the appointment process that really we have not been keeping track of, and I hope this would do, which is that everybody has to take the state ethics test.
Yeah,
So you need to have a system that enforces that to make sure that when we appoint somebody within a certain period of time, they've actually taken the test.
The town clerk's been
The clerk does that.
She notifies.
She does that.
no, hold on. The law requires the notification, but it doesn't require you to track it, so we've never tracked it.
The software would do
You
that?
can't go in there today and say, has everybody taken it?
Who hasn't?
No, well, we can say who took it, but we can't tell you who did
And
it.
you have to take it, what, every year?
It's every 2 years. She's required to send out a notification. This would actually
I'll probably
put
do it.
everybody in, and it would be,
You're probably overdue.
No, I'm sure they would do in the last couple of years, but I'm probably due.
and it would be like a flag that, you could run a report and see who hasn't done it.
I did mine with the FD.
So that's another big thing, because Carol and I have talked about it for a year on who is going to actually track that, because it does create a liability if you've,
Haven't done it.
yeah,
But is it in the software?
it's in the software.
It's in the software.
Great, so at least you have some structure in place, regardless of who's doing the enforcement and making sure.
Right.
At least we've got, with this item that we're talking about for purchase, we have the means to keep track of.
Yeah, it's going to clean up a lot of those things that have been just nipping at our heels.
Good.
So that was
Save
my
my time,
point.
that's perfect.
Yeah. I think the website too, that it will be a time saver, and then the FOIA direct is going to be a time saver too.
All right,
So-
we've got 3 other capital items which are not our items, or
Regional School District, 162,000, or about 162,000, and then the library new roof, 190.
the
I don't-
Divine Hill Cemetery, what is that?
I still don't have an amount on that. Remember last year they received an amount for
Did they pull that off
engineering?
last year, or what happened?
No, they did the engine,
They
did
did the
most of the
engineering study, I
engineering.
think they're waiting
Yeah.
for the quote from the engineer.
And I think they're working with Stantec.
They're working with Stantec, yeah.
So we worked with them in the transfer station and other spots. So that's it for capital.
Okay.
A couple of questions, if I go down through here. Let's see.
One of them was 24, line 24.
24, is the Board of Selectmen, Paul, if you know this, Paul, is the Board of Selectmen required to hold a hearing on that?
On which?
On the
acceptance
road
of a
acceptance?
road before it goes to town meeting.
Yes.
So they're required to hold a hearing?
If planning board's required to hold a hearing, then we're required to hold a hearing. They're different issues. Planning board is geometry. We have, if we vote to take a road as a public way, we have 120 days to do a taking, eminent domain taking, or to acquire it by conveyance, or otherwise the whole vote is void. So the issue for us is, do we have the money to do a taking, an eminent domain taking, or do we have voluntary conveyances? That's our
But
issue.
hang on, that's after town meeting or prior to town meeting?
Prior to town meeting.
So how do you do a taking prior to town meeting when you haven't been authorized to do the taking?
You gotta do it inside the
You
120,
have
so you gotta time
120
it, right?
days from town meeting vote. So before town meeting votes on that, we have to decide that we're committed. If town meeting votes to declare a road a public way, we have 120 days to acquire the right of way.
So we do a hearing before town meeting?
Yes, to determine how we're going to acquire it. Hopefully, the people who want it to be a public way will come forward and say, we'll convey it to you free of charge. That's fine. And then maybe you say, can you convey it to us free of charge plus deposit $1 million in an account so we can maintain it for a few
I like
years?
that idea.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. Yeah, this one.
So,
The finance piece is ours, the planning board's piece is, what's the condition of the road? Is there drainage there? Does it meet the standards for roads in the town? Does it have, what work needs to be done?
so is that is that something that follows that other pattern where the Board of Selectmen have to refer it to planning board?
It's, the statute doesn't say that you have to refer it, but it says you cannot vote on it at town meeting unless there has been an affirmative vote of both planning board and board of selectmen.
Okay.
So if we ever want to get to the point of an affirmative motion, you have to have, those hearings have to have happened.
Okay. Prior to.
So we should hurry up and schedule that hearing.
Could you have a joint
Planning board
hearing?
goes first to tell you what the condition is, because the other part, our part is finance, and if they come in and they say, planning board says, it's gonna cost us $10 million to bring this road up to code, and we're gonna have to pay for it if it becomes accepted, that's something that we have to figure out. Hopefully you have the developer bring the road up to perfect condition before, but that's a discussion with the planning board. But the planning board does the hearing first, and then they issue a report about what has to be done for the road.
And then we take that report and have our own hearing?
Yes.
So is the outcome of the hearing, can the selectmen vote not to go forward with the article?
Yes.
So
If we-
town meeting might not actually get a chance to vote on it?
Correct.
I assume it requires both planning board and the board of selectmen to hold a hearing to vote to authorize the taking.
Yes.
Okay. So we leave the article on there, and then we should start doing the process for us each to hold a hearing. Okay. So on Article 26,
Before you skip 25,
okay,
you don't need a bylaw. All you need to do is to accept the statute. There's two statutes,
okay,
so it's not authorized.
it's not an authorization.
You don't need a new bylaw.
It is a required town meeting acceptance?
Yes.
Yeah,
It has to be accepted by town.
so it's not authorizing the Board of Selectmen.
I'm sorry, I just
The
assumed.
statute already authorizes the board of selectmen. If it's accepted, if the statute is accepted. So we'll go accept the statute.
On the next one, that was kicked around when the Board of Health had their meeting till like 12:30 in the morning. And so we briefly talked about that. There were a few years ago, the selectmen had issued their own policy on what the expected town business hours should be. So I was going to recommend not having this go through as bylaw, but to work on it as a Board of Selectmen policy. One, it's easier to change if it's a selectman policy. And two, I think it's going to generate a huge amount of discussion about what town business hours should be and what the meeting hours should be.
And I suggest, there's two reactions to that. First, we can have a bylaw that says that it will be the Board of Selectmen, after a public hearing, establishes hours of town meeting that all town officials must comply with. That way, there are no hours specified in the bylaw. It simply authorizes the Board of Selectmen. Which leads me to the second issue. Every time we try to do a policy, we have no say, no jurisdiction over
Elected boards.
Right, we have a fractured government with all these little separate operations going on. it's sort of the old-fashioned 17th century version of local government, which is fine, and it's what Sherborn wants. But in the absence of a bylaw that says the Board of Selectmen does this, all we can do is advise and request. And it does make sense for communities to have standardized hours so that when somebody comes in and they have to go to one office after the other office, they can make one trip and not have to suddenly look up when is this office open and when is other offices open. And it's also quite important that if you're going to do things under the public records law and the open meeting law and all that, that you have particularly the town clerk's office open 5 days a week. So there's a whole series of issues here that I'm not sure I want to abandon.
Well,
So maybe it's an authorization article.
yeah, it's set. I mean, are we really going to be in the business of setting those standards for the elected officials, which we can't do, I think?
Can't do now unless there's a law.
Yeah, but even with the bylaw, where does that get you?
Bylaw allows you to set the hours of town hall.
Seems to me the other way to do that is just through the budgetary process, which is, you know, in order to get your budget, you've got to be open a certain number of hours.
And
There's two sides of that coin. He's also hitting on the 1 AM meetings.
Okay, I see.
That was part of this, right?
yeah, so the town hall will be locked up at 11 o'clock at night or 12 o'clock at night.
So in Framingham, we got around that by just saying the automatic locks lock the door at 11 o'clock, your meeting's no longer legal after 11 o'clock. And the doors would lock and...
Oh, but that's not open to the public, so it's...
Right. The building's not open to the public at that point. And that is within your...
So there has to be ways to trigger to get out of it, though. I mean, you hired a bunch of consultants, there's a bunch of attorneys, you're paying hundreds of dollars an hour to sit in a meeting and it's not over. You need to finish it.
But they could hold their meeting somewhere else.
Huh?
They could hold their meeting at somewhere else other than town hall, and then you'd have no control.
Police station's open 24 hours.
If we go into executive session at 10:30 and we have to hammer something out, we're gonna kick ourselves out of 11?
No, that's the thing, and that's the other thing about these hours, which is somebody's going to say, which they've said to me before, why can't the selectmen meet on the same night every week? Why do you switch it around? Well, I have said, when I've been chair, switch it around because we want as many selectmen as possible to be able to meet the meeting, and everybody's got other responsibilities as well, so we try to be flexible, but...
Well, generally we meet on the same nights, but we had a big snowstorm on Thursday night, and if that person was...
This time we did, but I'm just saying, we've met pretty much every day of the week in the past years. I don't have any problem with that. Sometimes it's to accommodate me, sometimes it's to accommodate somebody else. I bet we've accommodated everybody at this table and on the phone at one point or another. I think that's the best way to do it. But do we want some of the people in town who believe differently to, you know, amend our article to say that the boards have to meet the same night on a regular schedule? I mean, I think you're playing with fire when you get into that kind of a process.
Yeah, I could definitely see that happening.
I don't think this year's town meeting is a time to bring that. I think it's just, we got a lot of stuff on here,
Okay.
and it's gonna be much slinging, I think, over just that one thing.
All right.
And it's not like there aren't other people who can advocate for change if they want to. Oh, that has to be us.
I'm working with the personnel board on updating the personnel admin plan, and that's, I'm meeting with them again tomorrow morning. We've been meeting almost every week
Okay.
to shoot through that. And
So that's 27, 28?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
28 would be the listing of the positions and the classification. And then on the bottom, Article 33, the recall of the elected officials, we received the NOI on time before the close of the warrant. That's the notice of intent. But we didn't receive signatures until January 17th, which is about 2 weeks after the close of the warrant.
How many signatures?
I don't know how many there were. We have it, do you have that, Jeannie? Yes, like 7 or 10.
12.
Okay.
If
So-
it's beyond the end of the time the warrant's closed, they need to have enough signatures to call special town meeting, which is 2 weeks.
So the other citizen petition, they turned in their petition with the signatures on the day that the warrant was closing. So they met the deadline. So you need to decide, do you keep it in, or do you inform them that it's not going to be on the warrant because it didn't make the warrant closing, and they'll just have to go out and get more signatures to do a special town meeting, and then hopefully, because you have a certain time frame to react to that you can convince them to wait until the annual town meeting and have it the same night instead of holding a special town meeting sometime between now and then.
I don't understand what happened with the signatures, because did she not hand them in?
She didn't get it. I think what it was is she just assumed that she just needed to get the notice of intent in on time, because that's what most people, a lot of people did.
Were the signatures dated?
The signatures are dated.
Are or are not?
Hold on. It was received on January 17th.
But there's no date on the signatures,
No.
just on the petition. So
Just
they
on
could
the
have been
petition.
signed that morning. I don't know.
Is the language of the bylaw on the page where the signatures are?
Yeah.
And as a rule, the selectmen don't sponsor a citizen petition.
No, we wouldn't be sponsoring it at all.
Well, I don't need to sponsor, but you don't include a warrant article at the citizen request. You typically make them do the signature, so you have to decide whether those signatures are.
This is the same, if I recall reading the article, it's the same article that the town has rejected several times, 2, 3, or 4 times.
I believe
It's the same article from 2013.
So it's
I just need to inform them whether it's on the warrant or not. If it's on the warrant, it's included in the warrant because of the selectmen placing it there, not because of the legal right of the signatures.
Well, let me ask you
Isn't
something.
it already there?
Have we reopened the warrant for any other items?
No.
We have not added anything to this warrant?
No, we did, no.
But it was already there.
We had an NOI placeholder, like we have placeholders for others. The notice of intent was submitted.
That's not what I'm asking. I'm saying if we're going to take the position that there weren't the signatures on time and therefore it doesn't get on this warrant, we shouldn't have reopened any of the other aspects of this warrant to add anything. Is there anything in here that wasn't a placeholder that we've added since we closed this
No,
warrant?
once that warrant was closed, we've only been taking articles off.
I was going to say, I don't see anything here that's new on the original list.
the warrant closed January 5.
Right.
And I guess my other thought on this is I think it's just a dumb article. I mean, I really support it, but on the other hand, do we really want all the, mental torture of having a scheduled special town meeting and having to deal with, 200 signatures and the whole deal? It seems to me that one way or the other, this thing's going to get to the town meeting and be voted on because the folks who have collected the signatures are going to want to do that.
Yeah, if you keep it off and put all your eggs in one basket by saying that the signatures, you didn't get the signatures in time.
People will go get them.
They're gonna go get it, and it's gonna just provide more motivation to
Right.
you don't get the signatures.
And then you'll have 200 people who sign the petition and show up at town meeting to vote for it, rather than just 12.
Maybe, but the point is, if we close the warrants and we don't enforce that, then the precedent is that anybody can submit warrant articles anytime they want.
I think we're setting precedent though. There was some mishap here because she had it in. We had it on the warrant. We're not opening the warrant to put it on. It's already on.
We have to do that.
Well, no, we already put it on.
In the past, you have put placeholders or put these articles on.
No, I agree with Paul. If the signatures weren't received by January 5th, we'd have to reopen the article to make this a citizen's petition. The only other way it gets on is we include it and it's sponsored, sponsored by us, which I don't think we want to do. Or she gets a special, special town meeting schedule and we combine the two.
So you would open and close the warrant in acceptance of the
The
signatures.
problem with that, my problem with that is that once we do that for one group, then anybody can come in with another article and say, you know what, either take my new article now or I'm going to go out and get 200 signatures. And so there's never a closure to the warrant.
That's the Constitution. That
That's always an option.
They can do it.
It's always an option, but if you vote to close the warrant, you should vote to close the warrant and stick by it.
So the warrant is closed.
I'm worried about the precedent of just opening it now.
So you're saying to reject the signatures as being, coming in late, therefore the petition wasn't in time. So they would have to go out and get more signatures.
But my real concern is it's the same article. When this thing came up before, the concern I had was that there was no standards for recall.
It's a nightmare.
Yeah, it was a nightmare. Anybody could be recalled because they didn't like the tie that I wore that day or whatever. It's just a wide open thing. We wanted some standards that if you're going to recall somebody because you didn't like the tie, at least say, red tie with blue spots, you can get recalled. So people know what it is that triggered this. There was like no standards at all. And the discussion at the time said, if you came back with an article that had standards, you entertain it. So here we are 3 or 4 years later, and nothing that was said before about this article has been fixed in the article. It's still the same old.
Was it word for word from the previous article? Okay.
So didn't respond to what advisory said, didn't respond to what the discussion was at town meeting, didn't respond to what the Board of Selectmen advised about the article.
Should we be talking about the merits of the article, or should we be talking about the merits of the notice of intent, whether or not it's on this warrant?
Well, I'm bringing up the merits because if this was like a boiler that blew up and there'd be no heat for our kids unless we open a warrant, but it's 10 signatures, it would be different.
Well, hopefully we wouldn't need 10 signatures for that, but we actually put it on our own.
It was a really serious article that was an emergency.
The Veterans Tax Program, which you asked for, which we added, and which we got on that town meeting, and you got through, right? So, I mean, that was a policy issue, not this is really a government issue.
Is it clear that if you're going to put a citizen's article on the warrant that it has to be delivered with the signatures at a time the warrant closes and the guidelines that we send out or somewhere else?
That's the whole point of closing
I
the
think that's the
warrant.
statute.
Yeah, I thought there's I thought it wasn't Barbara's town council's opinion in there?
And we make that clear on the NOI. There's no confusion about that.
So how can you waive it then?
Well, in the NOI, we don't address how they should do a petition. And the NOI it's a notice of intent for a warrant article.
But a notice of intent is not a warrant article. It just tells us, it gives us the courtesy of knowing that somebody is going to be generating an article. It doesn't mean that they actually are going to generate an article. They may decide not to go forward with it. Right? I see that many articles were withdrawn by the advisory. They had a bunch of articles and they withdrew them. So they had notices of intent, but they didn't go forward with it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the statute is clear, we take it off, and I also don't know that there's enough energy around it, that there was, for instance, the Board of Health, that they're gonna get enough people that interested in it to generate a special town meeting.
Maybe not. I suspect
I
they
mean,
will.
those are the very rules.
Well, I think the motivation behind this has something to do with the Board of Health. I think that's why it's coming forward at this point.
Yeah, but, I'm just not seeing a lot of chatter about it on in-store servers or anything. Just doesn't seem at the same level of energy.
Yep.
I certainly understand the principle, but my pragmatic side shares your concerns, Mike, which is this, I think suddenly this may be giving it more prominence, and then we're suddenly possibly looking at a special town meeting scheduling, which I'm certainly not in favor of. Spending a lot of time and energy on this.
So what are you saying, what do you want to do?
I guess my inclination is to include it. I don't, my pragmatic side is winning out on this one.
I'm just to include it because nobody's shown us that, it would surprise me if she intentionally handed them in 2 weeks late. I remember she was trying to get signatures.
We can't work with intent.
Are you sure that it's absolutely clear that before the 5th you had to have the signatures in? If that's in writing, someone can hand that to me.
From Barbara, yes.
When you hand in a notice of intent, it's like 2 scribbled sentences and you hand it in. There's nothing to do with the
But a
signature.
citizen petition
Has to have language and signatures.
it's not an article until,
Wasn't that part of the problem was it last fall where we had those, the precursor of George Morgan's citizens petition, which didn't have
Any wording.
It had no wording, but it had signatures,
we had a special town meeting.
and it got on the agenda. All right. Well, there were signatures on it, but,
We had 2 special town meetings that night
yeah.
because of that.
Well, I strangely, my practical side has not went out. I think Paul and Mark have kind of convinced me that we ought to just follow the rules.
We table it till next week.
Which is,
Take it off, because it didn't make the
I don't
deadline.
know which way it's following.
I would say following the rules is taken off because they didn't meet the deadline, but Sean has just suggested going another week. It's next Thursday.
It was rated, if it didn't make the deadline, take it off. I just want someone to show us some writing. The
So we have
deadline is
some
crystal clear.
We had the petition in January 17th.
I think that's a good suggestion.
I don't know, that means nothing to me.
That's what we-
It
I think we've got a consensus that we're gonna hold off until next Thursday. In the meantime, Sean is gonna hire a team of detectives and we're gonna see what happens here.
Just show me a piece of paper that said it was due June 5th, or July, January 5th.
The warrant closes January 5th, period. So it's
So
your...
clearly you have to have the signatures in before the warrant? I thought you just had to have the notice of intent sheet.
No, there's a statute. If you're a citizen's petition, there's a special set of rules that apply to a citizen's petition.
Notice of intent have to be in November. Whole different
Right.
time frame.
It's the, yeah, it's in the statute about their right to, it's not in our bylaw, it's in the statute about their right to be able to get something on the warrant with, your warrant closed, it wasn't there.
Okay, take it off. Please.
Do you wanna have more investigation time, or do you want?
I don't, if everyone's convinced that it's crystal clear that it's due then I don't know why she...
But that doesn't mean that you can't, that's the thing.
What?
You guys can do whatever you want.
I agree that none of us should advocate to do something special for that particular one, because someone will come in next week and say, oh, here's my... I agree with that.
Yeah, I don't want to open the floodgates more
All right.
at this point. I That's a real danger.
Well, let's decide tonight then.
Okay, so we have a motion.
Do we have to open the warrant to take stuff off?
No.
No. I'm willing to give Sean whatever time he wants.
I'm not, well, I don't need any time. I'm not gonna make any more effort on this at all. It would give Sue time to explain why she brought it in 2 weeks later, or not, I don't know.
Happy to extend.
If everyone's convinced that it's crystal clear that they're due.
Let's take
From the outside, people.
Let's table it to next
Table
week.
for a week.
It's too late to be on
Yep.
it. Sorry.
Yeah, we'll just,
We've already spent a lot of time on this.
we'll just invite her in, put it on the agenda.
I want to do a citizen's petition to prevent us from talking about this.
I'll sign it.
All right, so David, what's next on our agenda here? Operational items, town administrator.
I had a question about items 18 and 19. There were questions. TA recommendation refer to question mark.
Oh, these are the things we talked about at the beginning of the meeting, when George Morrow was in, but I don't think you were.
What was the conclusion? Just
The conclusion is we are going to add both of these, or keep both of these on the warrant, and we're going to consider sponsoring the quarterly billing item, and the assessors are going to sponsor, or consider sponsoring the set date of assessment item.
Thanks.
But we haven't voted to actually sponsor it.
Thank you.
What's that then?
You voted, what did you
We
vote?
voted to leave it on the warrant.
Keep them on.
Is what we said. We voted to leave them on the warrant.
Didn't vote to
As-
endorse
as-
it.
We
as-
haven't voted to endorse anything.
DOS vote to include was today. DOS vote to include.
Not to sponsor.
Well, we didn't vote not to sponsor, but we also
Keep it on.
didn't vote to sponsor.
I put it in the warrant column.
Okay, all right, that's fine. What's next? Consideration of minutes. We have selectmen items, we have operational items. Do you have more of a report, David?
The only thing I wanted to say was when we received notice that the cell tower is working,
It is working.
officially.
Although I don't believe that it was working, you said it was working.
No, in fact, it was on test. It was on
It was
test.
testing, and you haven't catch it?
It was so much better service that night than it's ever been since then. They must have been really blasting it that night. But it was a selection meeting night, and I held a call from.
I know, they were in the email, and I'm
Yeah.
like, there's no way that thing's up and running.
Yeah, no, it was tested for a couple of weeks before it put it on.
Yeah, they were testing for some FCC approval or something.
Right.
So it was off and on. But it is on now.
David, snow plowing, were you pleased with how things came out? What was any lessons from the last couple storms?
I didn't see anything different this year than past years. There were less tree limbs that came down. That was obvious.
Do you think it was because of the work that's been done?
I think so. This last storm was real heavy
Yeah.
snow that stuck to limbs, and we would have seen a lot come down.
We didn't get the wind we were gonna get. They talked about the wind more than we actually got.
Yeah, but still, it was
Yeah.
heavy and sticking on in the trees. There was a lot of weight there, and it wasn't. The temperatures were still cold.
Well, I want to thank the CM&D crews and all of the contractors and everybody.
Star.
And Star, for all the work they did to make the storm safe. As far as I could tell, there were no accidents, there were no major blockages. The roads did get treated, people were able to move around.
So the morning of the storm that I notified you, I thought the roads in Sherborn were still a little bit slippery, and I made that comparison to Dover, because when I got into Dover, the roads were clear, and I think I've concluded they must just dump a lot of salt on their roads, because then when I got into Wellesley, the roads weren't clear again. They were probably worse condition than Sherborn's were.
It was funny because that when you called me about that, I went and checked, and when I remember coming through Natick, that 135 was a mess, which is a major road, and you think that would have been cleaned up. So it was an odd storm. I don't know what was different about it that made.
Maybe does Dover have heated roads, like people have heated driveways?
So they do.
Well, I listened to a news story saying that some town in Massachusetts has discovered if they pre-treat the roads with molasses, that it prevents the snow from adhering, it makes the treatment far better, it's much cheaper than the chemicals, it's environmentally safe, and they ended the story by saying it had the effect on the town's budget was very sweet.
It makes a nice snow cone, too. Okay, what's next? On that note, any selectmen reports?
I would move to approve the minutes for November 10th.
I had comments on a couple of sets of minutes.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, just a couple little typos.
I had some minutes too.
I did yours.
Well, your
All right,
numbers
so
are in.
the 10th was fine. On the 16th, I had an edit.
Okay, let me
We're up to
look
that
up.
yet?
There was that one about the reserve fund transfer. I thought needed editing.
There was one on the 16th, Diane, at the bottom where it says approval of minutes in that last line. The executive session for matters pertaining to the approval of minutes, we should say approval of prior year's executive session minutes.
Okay.
We weren't going into executive session to approve minutes. We were actually approving the release of prior year's executive session minutes.
Okay.
That was that, and then I had in, let's see, I had a comment on page 3 of December 15th.
Page 3,
Yeah.
okay.
On the second motion, I think Chick-yan is supposed to be Chuck-yan.
Chick,
Hey.
yeah.
No, that hour I was checked.
Chick-yan's the guy with the, he's got the tinted glasses and the pastel
Okay.
colored sport jacket. He doesn't show up much. So it's Chuck. And that was all I had for changes.
Okay.
Mark, anything you want to change on the minutes?
No.
Changed.
Yeah. Changed it to that. That's what happened. All right, so Mark's okay. Sean, any changes?
No.
Okay. So do we have a motion to approve all these minutes? Diane, thanks for getting these put
Yeah.
together.
He already made the motion and
And you seconded?
sure.
Okay. Moved and seconded. We'll take a roll call vote. Chuck?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
And I'll be yes also. So all these minutes are now approved. Do we have a motion, do we have any additional business? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Wait, I thought we were gonna talk about future meetings. Do we have the next meeting?
The 23rd is our next
23rd,
meeting.
And I actually
And
went
then,
up.
I think you had set March 9th after that.
Is that a
I want to
Thursday?
double check that.
That's
So
a
that's
Thursday.
caucus night,
Caucus night.
March 9th.
Yeah, March 9th is caucus.
So would we do, oh, thank you. Would we do, so March 9th is caucus.
At 7, I believe.
Well, do we want to do another
So we have to-
meeting on the 2nd and then go to the 23rd? Or do we want to meet another night that week? Do you want to meet the 8th and the 23rd? Can people meet the 8th?
I can.
Yes.
I can.
Cannot?
I can't make the,
You cannot? Okay.
I cannot.
Do we want to try a different day?
It's gonna be a long time between meetings if we don't. Plus, we have the advisory hearing on the 18th. It's that Saturday. The following Saturday.
Right.
We wouldn't have a meeting after next week's meeting,
March 10th.
right?
Is the advisory hearing.
I'm good March 2nd, I'm good March 16th, those are 2 Thursdays.
All right, let's do the 2nd then.
March 2nd, March 16th,
What day's the advisory hearing?
I have the 18th. What'd you just say?
okay. March 2nd and the 16th.
March 2nd and March 16th?
For what? For our meetings?
Our meeting.
Who? David, what'd you just say about the advisory hearing?
That's
The 18th.
I thought he said a different date.
Yeah, I thought,
You said the 10th?
Oh, advisory committee public hearing on budget.
No, the
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
all-day meeting we're talking about, David.
Yeah, it's the,
The 18th.
it's mailing out the notice.
Okay. So now you got me completely confused.
So
Let's go over
we're
our
gonna meet
meetings
the
again.
2nd and the 16th, is what we're saying.
Okay.
Hold for the 2nd and the 16th.
Was Mark okay with that?
Well, that's our usual Thursday schedule.
Yeah. Second and 16th, right?
Does that not work, Diane? Is that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Chuck, are you okay?
Yep, those are good.
So you got 5 people who agree.
Great, good.
Wow.
Excellent.
And then the 16th.
Well, good job suggesting those dates, that's good.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, motion and second to adjourn, we need a roll call vote. Chuck,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Sean,
Yes.
and I'll be yes. Okay, Mark, thanks for hanging in there, I know it was a long meeting to be on the phone.
But that's a 3 to 2 vote.
Thanks for having me.
Okay,
It's
fine.
3 ayes,
Yeah.
2
All right,
yeses.
take care, everybody. So we're adjourned.